Live tonight, Architects of Humanity. I am Max Stout. Is it just another brick in the wall? Gen X will understand that because it comes from the album by Pink Floyd. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall, basically. And the phrase, another brick in the wall, it was popularized by Pink Floyd. It refers to the loss of individuality with an oppressive system and the emotional barriers people build to protect themselves from trauma. It's like the saying from Frank Zappa. When Frank Zappa said, like in this picture here that I used for the thumbnail, when they cannot feasibly fuel the illusion anymore, when it becomes economically impossible, they'll just move the tables and chairs to the side, pull back the curtain, and you'll see the brick wall. But in this instance, the brick wall is made up of our vices, the headphones, the junk foods, the computers, the social media sites, the sports, all types of things that keep us trapped inside of the machine, inside of the painless concentration camp that Aldous Huxley talked about, pharmaceutical concentration camps that have people actually praise their oppressor, which is what we see today. In some circles, we see people literally worshiping golden statues of people, where we realize once again we are in the circus, a different part of the asylum called planet Earth, land of misfit toys. But that's why I have these shows as a beacon of light, to see if there's other thinkers out there that realize that many of the vices we see around us keep us imprisoned. It's just another brick in the wall. The conformity, the opposite of cowardliness, right? Being a coward is not courage. That's not the opposite. The opposite is conformity. People conform and they fall into what they would call, their lives become a low grade of depression. A lot of that happens. And it seeks to have its wonder. The beauty of life fades away, becomes monotone. When you listen to that song, all in all, you're just another brick in a wall. So people themselves keep us imprisoned. When we realize that the bars to the mental cage is made up of the expectations of other people, we might start to see that the door was open all along. We could have just walked out. All we got to do is just not care about what other people think as far as changing our life according to it, to try to fit within their parameters, their expectations. Be considerate, be aware of what people think about you, because then you don't waste your time on them. You don't put forth your most precious commodity for them, which also is health. I would say health is the most, because you can have all the time in the world, but yeah, those two together, health and time, that's basically what it is. And we live in a society that is very reminiscent to what Pink Floyd sang about with their song Another Brick in the Wall, suggesting that society treats individuals, which we do see them treating individuals, as identical and easily replaceable. So everybody's the same and they're easily replaced. That's becoming more and more an apparent truth with the robotic rebellion. It's as if the Matrix had said something that was very true, especially the Animatrix, if anybody gets a chance to watch that. The Animatrix has a lot of parts of the Matrix that it didn't show. Like, it shows how the war was started between humans and the machines. I think it was the second revolution. It has another like instance, computer generated, on a ship like Morpheus's, with a different captain, different people given a scenario. It had one where the Matrix had a glitch. So you see items float, different type of it's pretty deep. It's like kind of showing the it kind of pulled the curtain back on the simulation on one of them. So Animatrix kind of explains a lot about what we have, what we experience. We've seen that a lot of the illusions, like this illusion here, when you look at it, you start to realize that the horizontal lines are perfectly parallel to one another. They're straight, they're not crooked. So what else are we seeing that we think we understand that is not exactly the way we see it? This is why I put this illusion on here. We look through things like the ancient artifacts. You look at the glorification of the Eucharist, 16 AD, and it looks like a satellite. So there's things just like this illusion that you would think is just a painting, but when you look at it with the artist rendition over it on the top one, you start to realize, like, wait a second, this is more than what I thought it was. The religion of evolution, the evolution addicts start to sweat. They start to worry. The religious deity type religious, threatens their crime scene disguised as a paradise called heaven. Yeah, that's what we see, man. Nature, life is much stranger than we could ever imagine. But when you start to see that, like this picture here, society has its robots that come to erase your mind. If that don't work, they got the research from Professor Delgado that we see already talked about inducing Wi-Fi type radio waves to alter behavior. Now, we spoke yesterday about how they will release stuff upon the population through aerial drops. There is a book called Clouds of Secrecy when they do biological tests. Of course, in the concern for the citizen, we see that, in my opinion, across the nation. And these are just the ones that they're telling us about. But the vices that we see, the sports, the movies, the politics, all of these distractions are meant to, again, it's just keep us in this painless pharmaceutical concentration camp, a concentration camp where the bars are the expectations of others. So if we don't live up to somebody else's expectation, the prison disappears, it disintegrates. That's part of freeing yourself, realizing that what you think reality is actually something more than it is. So now we start seeking to pull back these curtains to see more and more behind the scene, to see exactly what it is. Thinking and feeling, these are two different things, like the picture here represents. Feeling is very important. They say follow your heart, but bring your mind with you. Feeling is extremely important. But isolation and trauma, in the context of Pink Floyd's The Wall concept album, the main character, Pink, builds a massive metaphorical mental wall to protect himself from the pain of his father's passing in World War II. Abusive teachers, failed relationships, because that's that part where it says, hey, teachers, leave those kids alone. And it hits deep, man, when you see the imagery of the kids with no faces, which I think would be representing no identity. So it's been washed, and they're on a conveyor belt, and they're not just standing there, they're walking forward as the conveyor belt pushes them even faster because it's moving in the same direction to where? Right into a meat grinder. I mean, it's deep. It's real deep. Each painful life experience is another brick in the wall that increases it increases his isolation to a point from the outside world to where he becomes comfortably numb. That's one of the other songs, which is amazing. Some of the songs that he forgot the golden years in his childhood, and part of the song says, I have become comfortably numb. Mr. Rex, good to see you, bro. What's up. I had the stream tonight, man. I got in kind of late, so started the stream right before midnight, man. 11:55 it was set up to start for, and I hopped on around 11:57. Yeah, man. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall, or it like in the song, all in all, you're just another brick in the wall. Suggests that society treats individuals as identical and also easily replaceable. So, yeah, man, another brick in the wall is something that Gen Xers were awoken to. But the generation before us, the late boomers, they actually experienced it more because they were older. They were teenagers, they were in their 20s. So they lived that a little bit more. And as I go through some of the stuff, anybody can look this up for Mr. X. What's up, bro? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, MD. Good to see you. Interesting topic, man. Should be a good one again.
Another
Sure.
brick in the wall, man. Thanks, man. You remember when that came out, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was a young kid when it was playing on the radio. I was a youngster, but you know, you had mentioned that when you took a psychedelic, that actually "Comfortably Numb" made more sense. The song actually made more sense. Um, you know, and I think that brings up some different issues because could beings on this third dimensional create songs that would make more sense when you're in a hallucinogen? I don't think so. I don't think so. I wonder if a lot of these famous songs, the classics, I'm not talking every song, were created by other people from other dimensions. Some of these songs, they just seem too deep. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
oh, there you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I see Mozart, especially stuff like that. I think Dirty Benny. Hope he's doing all right. I haven't heard from him in a while, but he
Mm,
mentioned that those songs they weren't made by humans, really.
I think so. I think they were made by spiritual entities and passed on. I mean, that's what John Todd said in the 70s, that a lot of these songs were, he said, created by demons. He called them demons, of course. But basically, they're entities from other dimensions. And it just doesn't seem plausible that a song would have more influence on you at a higher, when you're under a state of, some hallucinogen or some type of something or other, that people are taking. And also, a lot of the music, especially from the 80s, it was like an advertisement to take narcotics. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was
Yeah.
their marketing ploy. It wasn't because they couldn't market on TV, obviously. Take LSD, take marijuana, take this, that. They had to do it through music.
It's very possible. I mean, when I
Mm,
when I took the hallucinogens and listened to that song in the late 80s, it was back then I thought, okay, it went together. I thought comfortably numb at that point meant maybe going into a passive state by the use of the LSD
mhm.
and the marijuana and the alcohol. And a lot of people were just indulged in the alcohol. But as
Yeah.
years went on and I re-listened to the song, I realized the deeper meaning of it. It didn't have as much to do as with the usage of the hallucinogens as it did the mindscape of just letting go any types of dreams and aspirations that I had. So now at that point, without any type of outer drugs, I became comfortably numb. So right
Hmm.
now in a sober state, and there's a part of me that is comfortably numb due to the numbing effect of the machine. That's the deeper message of that song that I realized decades later. Because at the time, the music sounds kind of dreamy.
Right.
You think, okay, yeah, the drugs go with it. But it's like that saying, when you're happy, you hear the music. When you're sad, you listen to the lyrics. And the lyrics in that song talk about, he says, when I was a child, I had a fainting glimpse, um, something out of the corner of my eye, like a glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned
Mhm.
to look, but it was gone, I cannot put my finger on it now. The child has grown. The dream has gone. And then the chorus kicks in. I have become comfortably numb.
Mm.
And it just, that was the part of listening to the lyrics to say, wow, that's the real meaning of it. When I was a child, I had a fainting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. The child has grown. The dream has gone. I have become comfortably numb. So,
Mm.
in a way, now I realize it as it's us losing our dreams. It's such getting into the routine to where it's like we've become numb. We've become where, what are we going to do? There's nothing to do. There's no hope. And that is, the machine has a way of doing that. It has a way of creeping around if we let it. In the movie, The Wall, I think, yeah, his father died in World War II, and he was trying to get over the depression. And I think it was, I think it was drugs, maybe pills. Let me see. Pink. Well, it's not drugs.
Hmm.
It was a massive mental wall. So, but I think from what I remember in the movie, I thought he did use some type of drug when he was sitting on the couch, just numbed out. Because reality, when you really think about it, can get you that way.
Right.
Also, in the film, the wall itself is like you don't want to isolate yourself too much. Isolation is necessary, but in a certain moderation. And
Hmm.
it's yeah. So I kind of understood the meaning is different, but that music, I could see people listening to it and more like wanting to be high or drunk while they listen to it. It
Right.
has something to it.
They
Sometimes.
had some other good songs too. What was the other one? I know, of course, Hey
So
Teacher,
another
Leave Us
brick
Kids
in the
Alone.
wall in the album was that, and then
Hmm.
in that album they had a few. Goodbye Blue Sky
Hmm.
had that one. And we see,
What's that song? Is there anyone home?
yeah, is there anybody out there?
Yeah, that was the one. That's the one, right?
Hmm. That was a deep one.
Hmm.
And it was like,
Not if you can hear me, something like that.
yeah, is there anybody out there? And he
Mhm.
says that in the song Comfortably Numb. Uh,
Right.
he says, so he says, hello, hello, is there anybody out there?
Mhm.
There'll be no more, ah, and he screams. Um, yeah. So that, is there anybody out there, is in a few songs where one's like a UFO kind of encounter, like, is there
Mhm.
anybody out there? And then the guitar starts playing, and it's where he starts saying, did you see the frightened ones? And then he goes into like some other lyrics. So it's a really deep album, man.
It is. And they had a pyramid with a rainbow going through it, I think, or some beam of light on their album cover. Wasn't that
Mhm.
the
I think that was a prism
Oh, okay.
with the spectrum, the primary colors. That was the album Dark Side of the Moon, I think.
Mm.
And they had some pretty deep songs on that. I think the song Time was on that. And I forgot what other songs, but that was probably one of the best on there. The song Time. Matter of fact, the Dark Side of the Moon has some type of connection to the movie The Wizard of Oz. They were saying that when you play it, when you start the album on the third roar of the MGM Lion, before when if you play the original Wizard of Oz, the lion's like rah rah rah. The third roar, you start the album, and everything lines up with the album to the movie in like a very odd way. Like one part where they're in the poppy fields, and it doesn't affect the Scarecrow and the Tin Man because they're not real people, according to one theory. So Dorothy, Toto, and the Cowardly Lion are passed out from the poppy seals when they're in the poppy fields when they're in the next to the flowers. Which poppy makes what? Opium, which makes heroin. So
Right.
it's the opiate of the masses. And in when you play the album at that time, it'll be at the song where it says the lunatic is on the grass. I forgot the name of the song. But yeah, it really lines up. I think time starts to play when they hit Emerald City. Because remember, they're trading in the gold, the yellow brick road, for the paper money, the paper glasses that they have to wear to go into Emerald City. It has a lot of deep stuff in it. Because I think, matter of fact, when they're going into Emerald City, that's when the song Money starts playing. I don't know if you remember that song.
Yeah, I remember that.
Hmm. So yeah, it gets really deep, man. People have looked deep into it. These, I would say, are people that are a little older than us, but not
Hmm.
fully late bloomers, boomers. So it's like people that would be born like in the early 60s, maybe even late 50s, 59, 61, stuff like that, maybe. Because I mean, I don't know who really, it could be people that are older too, because people were really, really into that. I remember. I was too young. Like, yeah, we were kids.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the lyrics that they had there. Yeah, time.
Yeah, and that's Dark Side of the Moon. I think that album is the Dark Side of the Moon, where they have that, and then they have a Cigar. That's actually a good. I forgot the name of that album. That's with the two guys in front of in Paramount Studios shaking hands, and one is on fire. They use the that fire gel so the person doesn't get uh, burned, but they're shaking hands, and that's the weird thing, shaking hands with the guy that's on fire, and the guy's just standing there shaking his hand as if the fire is either not bothering him or he doesn't know.
Mm.
And then they have a few deep albums. I would say the best one is The Wall. It was a
Oh
couple, yeah, with the but some of the songs from the other ones are really, really good too. So
yeah, you're just another brick in the wall, which is so true. It's just so true.
yeah, it's
Where most
another
people
brick,
end up. Yeah, that's how most people end up. The vast majority.
kind of like the thumbnail, this picture here, where
Mhm.
the wall is made up of all the vices, all the
Yeah,
stuff that we're kind of addicted to, and also the stuff that, in a way, make us comfortably numb.
that's true. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, that's what gave me such a new meaning to the song.
Hmm.
To say, wow, that's really deep. When you listen to the lyrics, it's like, yeah, I try to remember, and it's been so long that even in your 30s and your 40s, you think, yeah, this ain't gonna bother me.
Hmm.
I'll never forget how to how to think in a free way, or but it beats you down in a way
It
if you
does.
let it. Yeah,
Yeah.
society. Yeah, especially now, it's like,
Well, we were all young once, and we thought things were, we all had questions about life when we were growing up, as kids. And I think sometimes they make it seem like things are easier to accomplish than what it really is. They kind of sell you that dream. And we find out, once we get to the real world, things aren't as easy as what we've been told as kids. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
You work
yeah,
hard, you do the right thing, and you'll be successful. Well, that's not really true. It's really
yeah.
not.
If that was true, every farmer in the world would be rich.
That's right. That's right. Any law-abiding citizen would be wealthy too, and not have to worry about bills so much. And yeah, and a lot of times it's the opposite. It's the criminals who do well. The
Mhm.
people who run for politics, and they're the ones who get rich. You know.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, the meaning of the three parts of the wall. The father, the ghost of his father that he lost in World War II, having to grow up without him. It
Hmm.
was the first brick of emotional attachment,
Mm.
basically. And then education and thought control, that was the second one.
Wow, that's a good. That's such a powerful part of the song, especially when we look at it today and when it was written. It's true. It's thought
Mhm.
control. It really is.
It gets deep because the concept for the album was written by the bassist Roger Waters,
Hmm.
and it represents the psychological barrier of the protagonist,
Hmm.
Pink. Because the name of the band actually comes from two, I think, old jazz musicians, two black men that their names were Pink, and I think one of the other one's name was Floyd.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think that's where they got the name for the album. And yeah, so the 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 trauma of growing up without the father who was killed in World War II, that loss serves as the first brick, the emotional detachment, and then the education and thought control. That's the famous segment, serves as the embittered critique, of the post World War II British grammar school system, where in the song, they're like, you hear the teacher being very stern and
Yeah,
yeah. And then it's like, hey, teachers, leave those kids alone. I mean, for a song to say that is pretty
mm,
deep.
it is. It is. And it just talks about the childhood and how if a kid maybe struggles or isn't, the best at something, that he's kind of ostracized in a way by the teacher
Mhm.
or put down as he's less than a person. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And of course, there's going to be kids who just aren't as smart as maybe others or something is wrong. But then you just want to magnify it and just really bring the kid down. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. I mean, the
Yes.
whole bell, that school bell, is
Hmm.
so offensive, and people don't even like. It's been going on for decades without being challenged. Like, what are you crazy?
Hmm.
We don't want to hear a bell and be trained like Pavlov's dog,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it just continues. Nobody really. That's a really good way of looking at the level of apathy. The fact that people haven't said, "Look, we don't want this bell. We don't
Hmm.
want our kids subjected to a freaking bell, man." Nobody cares.
No, but you know what? There's a difference between public and private, and that just comes down to the wealthy and the non-wealthy.
Hmm.
And if the money
I'm not
talks,
sure.
money talks at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
I'm not sure if private schools have the bell. If some have it and some don't, I'm not sure.
But I'm sure they work with the kids. They try to motivate the kids for success. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Versus in the public school system, you're just a number and you're just part of the factory. You
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah.
just
Public is brutal.
it's brutal because money talks in all aspects of life.
Hmm.
And you see that not just in America. I mean, you see that all over the world. You know, if you come from a wealthy family, you'll get treated differently. Versus somebody from a non-wealthy family, you're just a whatever. You know, you'll get used books with things written in them, despite the fact that they're taxing us to hell. Where's that money going? I guess it's going to like you said, going around the moon and going to other places instead of getting new books for the kids or trying to help them, learn a certain way that's more
Yeah,
efficient. No, they don't care. You're just a brick in the wall, like the song says. You're part of the system.
exactly. And the false education, those books, those false textbooks with the evolution propaganda, that's crazy.
Yeah. So you have to study and take a test based on a lie. You know, and not to mention the history books. Those are probably full of lies too, and you have to memorize all that crap. And like I said before, I mean, who's to say that Shakespeare was so brilliant? Well, they decided Shakespeare was brilliant, and they told us you better learn it now, So it's
Yeah.
like,
And then we find out that it might actually have been a committee with Francis Bacon and those other people.
Right.
like a group of writers, with the lead writer, and then Shakespeare himself may have been a fictional character. You start to the
Hmm.
whole thing crumbles.
Yeah.
So the trauma, education, thought control, and the total isolation, and that's where his descent into absolute apathy. And we
Yes.
see that. We see what they say. Most men live lives of quiet desperation.
The way I look at it, sometimes it's like a prisoner who has to go out and cut rocks, break rocks into little pieces. And once they finish the job, well, they just come up with more rocks. You know what I mean? It just never ends. And it's kind of pointless work, but it has to keep you working and active and tired. And I think a lot of times, a lot of our educational system is that way too. It's just make them learn a bunch of nonsense, but make them memorize every single fact, especially when it comes to evolution. There's a million things we can test them on. None of it's true, but who cares? They'll be busy, they'll have to memorize so many different definitions and terms that, especially, and also with history, that are pretty much useless, will not benefit them in any way, shape, or form as far as finding a career and so forth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know what the crazy thing is? They'll change those definitions too. That's the turning of the knife. Not
Hmm.
only are they stabbing the people with the memorization instead of learning, which memorization is a part of learning, but it isn't the whole. They'll
Yeah.
twist the knife, saying, "Well, that means this and it means that."
Hmm.
And one of the biggest is when they have to say, "Well, anything, anything in nature means evolution.
Yeah.
Anything." It's like, "Oh, really? Yeah, it's something adapted to some. Oh, that's evolution. This, this is an amazing life form. That's evolution. This plant knows how to do this specific thing that we can't explain. That's evolution." It's
Hmm.
like inundating at the point that I noticed. It's everywhere. Oh, you're a biologist? No, you're an evolutionary biologist. Oh,
Right.
you're, a chem. It's like, what the heck is going on? And those bricks in that wall really will imprison a mind quickly.
It will. It will. And you could be somebody who is brilliant maybe at mathematics, but you struggle in history or you know, so something like Shakespeare or certain types of literature, or
Hmm.
you might be good at that, but poor at mathematics. And either way, they got you. You're going to get bad grades, and you may not get into certain schools that would enhance your abilities. I would say, you know what I'm saying? You'll
Hmm.
still be a brick in the wall doing a mundane job or something. They
It's
they know
really,
what they're doing. Yeah,
it's
I'm sure there's
really,
plenty of brilliant people who didn't get successful jobs. I'm sure that's plenty of
mhm.
cases like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the movie Good Will Hunting was something about that in a way.
Yes, it was. It was definitely. He was a genius, but he obviously had a terrible life. He was an adopted kid, grew up in foster care, and had horrific experiences. So of course, he never excelled academically. But what do you expect? you know, it's not all
Yeah.
about being book smart. There's a mental issue too. That can affect people as far as their terms of their success. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when you think about it, it's like, man, that's serious stuff.
Hmm. But it's real life too. It's real life. It does happen. You know.
Yeah, I had, writing about the Bonhoeffer thing with the stupidity. It's it's very it's so relevant. It's something like that. When I look at it more and more, I'm like, needs to be kept as like almost like a holy book, almost like it really is, because it prevents it, like a book of mental protection. Really, that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, and we see it in real life every day. Every day. Uh, I mean, I'm not trying to harp on any one community or anything like that, but the thing with the pants down, I mean, that tells you all you need to know.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
just
it really does. I mean, it's just so, that's just so out there. It's like you might as well put a sign that says I'm a criminal, I'm a thug. You know, if there's a crime, look at me first. You know, basically, you know what I'm saying?
It's
It
just
sends the
really,
wrong message. You know?
it is such a form of mental control. Like it
Hmm.
tells you, it's if mental control could wear a costume or an outfit, that's one of them.
It
Um,
is. It really is.
yeah, we see it with others, people with the makeup thing, the piercings, and stuff like
Mhm.
that. The
Yeah.
tattoos, nothing against people that dress in these manners, because you're going to find people that are cool people that actually do dress like that. What they don't understand, I think, is one guy put it in a good way. He goes, if you see snakes, now not all snakes are poisonous, but
Hmm.
you don't want to get too close to them.
Right.
You don't know. So when people dress like the snakes that would sting people, and even though they're not that type of snake, they're going to be they put themselves in that category. Like you were saying, they're wearing the uniform of the other guy that just did the thing that somebody might be afraid of.
Exactly. It is what it is. We judge. I look. We all judge based on appearance. I do it myself. That's why I try to look decent when I go out in public. I don't, especially in the
Yeah,
past. My sense of
plain is the
fashion
best
was
way,
really
man.
bad.
When I look at it, yeah,
Yeah, but we all do it. Let's just keep it real. You know what I mean?
yeah, we all have, yeah. It's what I guess they would call a style, even
Hmm.
if it isn't trying to be stylish. It's still what Frank Zappa would call a uniform. Like when the
Yeah,
hippies, I said you're all wearing uniforms, even though they look kind of different. But no, it is that it's crazy, man.
it is. It
In a
is.
way, it's sort of like we're all always wearing uniforms.
And I think affects your pride and your, they say, the tattoos or I'm not even kind of comment on the pants down because that's just in your face, obvious. We don't even have to we know that's just ridiculous. But the tattoos, I don't know what people nowadays, I mean, they're everywhere. You see people just tattooed to the hilt. And I don't know. I don't know. Like,
I don't
I don't
know
know
if
what
you've
that does to your
seen,
psychology.
like, there's a lot of people working in professional positions that have ridiculous amounts of tattoos. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a tough one. And then the thing is, you have good people that wear that uniform, and yeah, I don't
A lot of
think they
cops too.
realize.
A lot of cops wear it too. I mean,
Hmm.
I've seen plenty of videos with cops. They're filled with tattoos, But it's like, can you imagine getting married to a woman on your wedding day and she's got like a bunch of tattoos on her? It's just something doesn't fit. You know what I mean? I'm sure
It's
that's
crazy
not what we
too.
envision.
Yeah, people look for that. It's crazy.
Hmm. I mean, in the old days, that was considered the tramp stamp, as they called it. But I don't know. We're definitely, and what's funny is about tattooing, I think it was actually very common in ancient times. Weren't the Egyptians heavily tattooed themselves? I don't know.
I'm not sure. Like, I don't think they found tattoos on the Ramses
Hmm.
mummy.
There
The
were some
weird thing,
ancient cultures with them. I can't remember which
yeah, no,
one.
there are definitely ancient cultures with the tattoos. There's no doubt about it. But
Hmm.
also, not to go off topic with the Egyptians, is I was reading something about the aristocracy eating parts of mummies in Egypt.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about that. It's just, yeah, it's like holy smokes. It's almost unbelievable. And they have a book about it. I had let me see, I think I saved let me see. Yeah, I had some of the things saved under my Darwin folder.
Hmm.
And hmm, it was a book called The Delectable Negro, and it was about people eating black people.
Really?
Yeah, it was trying to see where I saved it to. And it went into the mummy eating stuff too. Um, hmm. Oh, here it goes. Okay. So the Delectable Negro is the book in 2014. The Delectable Negro: Human Consumption and Homoeroticism Within U.S. Slave Culture by Vincent Woodward, 2014, argues that the slave culture was defined by a culture of consumption. So, figuratively and literally, consumed black male bodies, merging sexualized, desired homoeroticism with cannibalistic violence. Now,
Mm,
who knows, could have been practiced by many other cultures too, but at least this is documented where the consumption metaphor and reality, it explores how it involved a total consumption of the enslaved person's body and soul. Now, some tribes, I think, would look at that eating, taking a bite or eating the enemy's heart would give them power. I mean, this is
right.
it's like, where do you get that from? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you get that from a non-human thing? You know what I mean? Like, why would another human do that? Like, how does that ritual even come about? Like, maybe
Mm,
there's something that's disguising as a human that is predatory in nature that can consume a raw human heart, or maybe that's what it wants. The way that how lions and certain predators will eat the liver and stuff like that,
sure.
the
Well,
organs.
there was a case here in Florida, and you could see it. I think I had YouTube. It's on, maybe on YouTube, but you can definitely find the video of it because it was recorded of a guy who was high on flakka. And he was, our bath salts or flakka. I can't remember which one, but one of the two for sure.
Mhm.
And he was basically eating another guy, another homeless guy or something like that. They showed his eyes were like wide open. He looked possessed, but he was eating the flesh of another man.
Wow.
So it's possible that some of these cultures also indulged in some of these different hallucinogens.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that contributed to what they're, maybe in a practice, maybe in a ritual, they would consume certain plants. Because, whether you call it bath salts or flaca, it still comes from a natural
Hmm.
plant that's grown here.
Yeah.
I don't know which one, but I think the same thing might hold true with some of the ancient cultures that they were consuming hallucinogens from certain plants, and probably that would possess them to engage in that sort of practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And definitely. Alexis, brother, thank you for the support, man. He says, was DB Cooper an Agent Cooper? I'm going to
Mm,
check on that because I have that. That was the guy that hijacked the plane. The French
right.
American and all other revolutions are just fairy tales used to control us by making us think we have free will. The best way to control us is to pretend we aren't controlled.
Mm,
Absolutely, man. The more I look into it, the more it's like they give us these stories of rebellion to kind of keep us from rebelling in some way. To say, "Oh,
I
look,
agree.
look." Yeah, that's a very
Like
good
we're
point.
It makes us feel like we're running the show. You know what I mean? Like we're so
Mhm.
proud. We
Yeah,
we overthrew it. We didn't actually do anything.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
It's like you think about it, and it's like then everything starts to crumble. Vietnam War. It's like, really? So they won, huh? That they drove it. I think America got what they wanted. They achieved. Maybe they had to bomb some type of archaeological site so somebody wouldn't see the truth, because
Mhm.
Laos was the most bombed country during those wars. A country that wasn't even in the war was the most bombed country, and they have the gigantic jars, the stone jars in Laos.
Mm.
So maybe there was other things that would have give clues. If you just see the jars alone, you don't know. But if you have the other things, the clues, you would say, oh, wait a minute, this plus the jars, that definitely shows that there were some type of gigantic human beings in this area somehow. It's like, why is this even existing?
Yeah.
And bombing those things,
And
would
what
definitely.
country were we fighting for? It's like it really wasn't us defending our nation. It
Well,
really
they also,
wasn't.
yeah, yeah. They said that it was, who the admiral was in that war with the Gulf of Tonkin incident that was used to start the war.
Hmm.
In my opinion, they they have was Jim Morrison's father.
Wow. And it was admitted, I mean, in my opinion, that it was a fraud. It was admitted by, I think his name was McNamara, one of the
Uh huh. Yeah. Yeah.
people in the government. It was a complete fraud. It never
Hmm.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. But DB Cooper, Dan Cooper, addressing Alexis, what he was saying here. was DB Cooper an agent, basically. It seems that it seems to be. I mean, I don't put any of these guys past the suspicion of this. You know, he was best known as DB Cooper, Dan Cooper. That was the alias, and all they have is a drawn picture of this guy.
I
That's
know.
crazy.
It's
Yeah,
probably a joke anyway. The picture looks like a Agent Smith all over again. It's like I don't know.
very,
I just don't
very.
trust anything that comes out of there. You
You
know.
know, that's he disappeared in 71. It says 54 years ago.
Hmm.
And they talk, hijacker, never apprehended. It really makes you wonder. I would think that this is an agent. I would definitely think that, just the whole story of it. The way they distract us is crazy because, yeah, they'll have us like going in different directions away from something that they don't want us to see, and we see it happening now. The fact that they came out with some UFO stuff, I said, you got to be kidding me.
Hmm.
Have to be kidding me. And get this. Somebody sent me, or I think it was Tony Snow. He sent me an email where Clavicular
Oh, gee.
is meeting the Vice President JD Vance.
He is for real?
This is crazy, man. I told Scribe about today. He tried to, harass me to go back. I said, look, I said, they're going to have this kid. They're driving him basically to a point where it's like, it's just ridiculous, man. I'm like, and I think he's talking to him about looks maxing or something. I'm like, you got to, what type of clown show are we in? What type of clown show are we in where they're releasing the UFO files, but not the Epstein files, right?
Exactly.
It just, I mean, and nobody sees that. They're like, hey, the fact that the $90 billion for the moon mission, it's like nobody flinches with that. That's the craziest thing. The fact that I have not seen much pushback on that 90 billion, it just shows me how brain dead most of the population is.
Right. Well,
Objective,
I mean, let's be fair to the population too. They're just struggling to get by, most of them.
Yeah, man, people, it's something, man. Objective ethics. Good to see you, brother. He says, Mr. XMD, good evening, brothers. I trust you're doing well tonight. Yes, yes. I trust you're doing well as well, brother. Hopefully everything's okay. Yeah, we're sitting here kicking it, basically talking about, is it just another brick in the wall, bro? It just like Pink Floyd was talking about. It's like it really made me wonder with the meaning of the three parts, because I saw the movie when I was very young and I didn't understand it fully. I liked the cartoon parts of it, but the regular movie itself, I mean, some parts in the classroom were kind of revealing, especially when you see the children on the conveyor belt walking forward with the mask that just took out all individuality from their faces, sort of like a covering, and they're walking right into the meat grinder. And yeah, and I mean, Pink Floyd, definitely deep. It's funny how I understand the song now much more. Comfortably Numb, very much. What was the other one? Comfortably Numb, and man, so it was Another Brick in the Wall, Comfortably Numb, Goodbye Blue Skies, Mother. Mother was a good song. Mother, Do You Think They'll Drop the Bomb? And he really, it was, yeah, that's a deep song. Yeah, the other one, it ended with Together We Stand, Divided We Fall. I'm trying to think of the name of that one.
There was some other song. I can't remember the name. I'm gonna look it up right
trying
now.
to think what exactly it was. Just Another Brick in the Wall symbolizes how humans are reduced to identical, expendable pieces of a monolithic system by forcing people to conform to rigid rules. That's the definition, internet type, where society separates people from their authentic selves. They really do. I mean, it just to the point where.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
There was a
good.
song called Young Lust. Have you heard of that one? Young Lust.
That's by Floyd.
That's by Floyd. It was a pretty famous one.
Hmm. No, I didn't actually hear of that one. Um, I was looking for the list. Because Comfy Numb is pretty well known. But what was let me see. Uh, Another Brick in the Wall album songs. Um, okay. Another Brick in the Wall, Mother, Young Lust. Oh wow, yeah, that was. I wonder if that's the one where he's singing "He Needs a Dirty Woman."
That's the one. Yeah,
Hmm.
that was kind of a famous song.
Yeah, yeah. Hey You, that was the other one. Hey
Mm-hmm.
You, out there. I think it's out there on the wall, making
Mm-hmm.
trouble in the hole. Can you hear me?
Oh, that's yeah. That was the one I was thinking of. I think. Hey, you.
Yeah, and then after that is there anybody out there? Then Nobody Home, Vera, Bring the Boys Back Home, Comfortably Numb. The Show Must Go On. You know, and there was one because the wall, Another Brick in the Wall, has three parts to it, and it has the last part. I think where it starts with, I think it's something like, "I don't need no drugs to calm me." So they were trying to calm him down. So
Mm.
speaking of movies and Pink Floyd, if you haven't watched The Wizard of Oz with Dark Side of the Moon, you're really missing out. It's a great experience. Yo, Mr. X, he's saying just we were talking about this earlier, ethics. I You started the Dark Side of the Wall on the third roar of the MGM Lion. Yes. So when anybody watches it, it's amazing that you just said this because we just were talking about this a little earlier, maybe 15 minutes ago, about how if you start the Dark Side of the Moon album right when the third roar of the MGM Lion roars, then everything lines up perfectly. When the scarecrow is dancing in the grass on the poppy fields, it says the lunatic is on the grass. Money, the song Money starts to play. Um, where like Brother Ali, good to see you, man. Money starts to play right when they go to enter Emerald City. When they get to the Emerald City, everything lines up, man. That's amazing. That is amazing that you said that, bro. But what does the government get out of hijacking a plane in 71? What's the point? Honestly, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure on with DB Cooper, Agent Cooper. I would think money because of course the guy, you know, he tried to get, what was it, over $1.5 million in today's money, 200 grand back then. So that is a very, just the way the CIA, I think they say, were you know, making money from the Contras by bringing up, you know, having neighborhoods flooded with drugs. Gary
Yeah.
Webb wrote a book. Yeah. Hmm.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, they cracked down in Miami. You remember I don't know if you ever saw the movie Cocaine Cowboys, but it's about Miami back in the 70s and how it was just the Wild West with the drugs. And then they came in and they cracked it down, but basically just to take it over. That's what it all came down to. You know what I mean? They didn't want the freelancers in there anymore selling
Hmm.
drugs. You know, it's like moving cocaine into this country. You know, they're playing with the monetary system also, so they had to shut the whole thing down. And
Hmm.
then after that, what do you have? You have Iran Contra, obviously the U.S.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Red Blur, I just wrote to Scribe, man. I asked him to paste it in the chat for me. Thank you so much, brother, for the support. He says, just donated to the channel. Keep them coming. MD, Scribe, Mr. Rex, and the rest of the crew. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Objective says, yes, on the third roar. And make sure to loop the CD because it lines up perfectly with the whole movie. Yes. Yes, bro. That is so true, brother. It just, that's amazing, man. You're definitely, I think Objective Ethics is Generation X too. So
Oh, okay. So
all
you remember.
Gen X. Yeah, Scribe is like right late Gen X, like right at the end, 79, I think. And
Oh, okay. That's really late. Yeah, because he
yeah,
really wasn't a teenager in the 80s, which
yeah,
was
he was
something
more
to
of a teenager,
experience.
yeah, in the 90s, yeah. But he
Yeah.
was you know, he was definitely like he experienced 8, 9 years old in the late 80s. So, you know,
Hmm.
and then the 90s too. For me, the 80s and the 90s were great. I mean, the 70s too, the late 70s. It's
Hmm.
definitely some beautiful stuff. Alexis says, MD, Google British man hold out of Italian bar when he was meant to be quarantined. Oh, really? Just recently, huh?
Oh
Okay,
boy, not again, not again. I don't want to go through that again.
man. And Hanta, we know, means to deceive. Oh, no, it means a fraud in Hebrew and a lie in Hungarian. If anybody looks that up, they can check it. YouTube.
How's it going, Scribe?
Hey, what's going on? I just posted the information.
Oh, okay. Let me check it. Thank you, Red Blur, for the $12 donation. Thank you, brother. He says, excellent stream from the past few weeks. Cheers, fella. Cheers, fellas. Thank you, bro. Cheers, too, man. It's definitely great to keep these streams going, man. I'm looking up Alexis's thing. British man hold out.
A lot of growth in these streams, MD. I think it's going to grow, especially now that you're reaching out to others. I think you're going to have a lot of success. Just give it some time. But
Thanks, man.
I like the
I gotta,
direction it's going.
yeah, I got to rewrite these two guys. One guy was a lucid dreaming channel, and the other guy was the animation. He did the video on why there's not much dark animation anymore. So, I asked him maybe we could talk about the power of animation and also just maybe get into art. I haven't heard back from him, but yeah, maybe I'll just give him a follow-up email, or maybe he watched some of the streams. Some people might feel a little intimidated, I noticed, to come on the stream with other guests or even just to come on stream. Mr. Sosa
Mhm.
wanted to play videos instead of like really talking a lot. And because he goes, yeah, you can make mistakes and stuff. I said, no, that's what it's about, man. I said, it's just a
Yeah.
conversation. I said, and it went much better. Like as we spoke backstage the day before, him, Scribe, and I, and yeah, we got really deep. And he felt comfortable. He told me a couple days ago that, yeah, just let him know when we want him to come back. So I was like, yeah,
That's why we shouldn't.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
good that you prevented anybody from challenging him, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wasn't
think
a
I
sport.
think he might want to come back and maybe get into the challenges of the
Hmm.
whole. He's not challenging because I guess there's some parts of the whole space evolution type thing. He doesn't adhere to evolution with the Big Bang, but there's something with the like and I understand, like, okay, so and this is a tough one, like when we think about it, like those satellites that they say they put out there, right?
Right.
And it just it's definitely on the belief factor. Objective ethics says Scribe is really chill, easy guy to talk to, good vibes. Yeah, man. Yeah, he's always been cool, man. Always been cool. If you want to hop on, have a conversation, I got the link pinned to the top of the chat. It's kind of late, but it's always a pleasure to have you on and listen. Yeah, Scribe is always he's the chill part of the crew. He's definitely the the guy in the back, like David Little said it. The Han Solo character in the back of the bar with the pistol under the table, kind of that relaxed cowboy type of NPC. Says I was born in '77. Oh, so yeah, you're Gen X too. The
Hmm.
'70s was divine. 10 years since seven stands alone is the god goddess number. Yeah, yeah, man. Oh, you got my new email, right? The wisdom one, or you send it to the wisdom one, because I don't have the other one. I gotta here. Let me check it to see if you sent it to the wisdom radio one. Because I don't have the other channel anymore. I don't have that email. Let me
You don't
see.
have Wisdom Radio anymore.
No, no, I have Wisdom Radio, the old one, the old channel Smash. Yeah, I don't have
Oh,
that.
okay. That's where I send you some emails. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that one. Let me see if it's going to spam. I don't think so because I don't have nothing in spam. So you must be sending it to the old email. I'll give you the new email if you want to come on. I'll put it in the private chat. NPC Objective says I appreciate the invite, but I'm working on finishing up my arguments for my debate Saturday on biblical morality versus a Christian apologist. Wow, wow, that's going to be
Oh.
That's a deep one, man. That's a deep one. Yeah. Oh, always a pleasure, though, man. Always a pleasure.
Should be a good one, actually. That should be
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
debate.
You know what it is a lot of them don't realize that we don't know where we come from. Now, it does point toward not being a chance or random, but when they say things like, the evidence, archaeological evidence of floods, right? Or
Mhm.
even a great flood, it doesn't prove a particular person's flood. To say the correct way is to say, yeah, there was a massive flood, a planetary flood, even. But to say that it's Noah's flood or it's proof of Noah's flood. Now, I could see if they worded it in a way like this is possibly what some cultures talked about, a worldwide flood. You got to be very careful on that. When they come out and they say that things prove the Bible, that's a very long stretch. And when you look into it, because that's going to be a really good, okay, sent it to Wizard. Did you spell it with a Z, W-I-Z? Because if you spell it with an S, it won't go. I just checked it. I got it open now. I don't see any email, bro. I don't see none in the spam. There's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to try to send it again, yeah, I don't see it in there. But yeah, that whole debate, like there's so much in the book and all holy books, Quran, Torah, Bible, the Hindu books, all of that, where there is some stuff, I would say more in the monotheistic religions, but also in the polytheistic, the Greek stuff, where you see some brutal stuff. There's some brutal stuff to read in there, and it makes you wonder why. How could somebody not just say, listen, all right, I believe this part that people were created, maybe, I just don't understand, because I always say, what is it, invisible hands or something? I think
Well,
architects of humanity somehow, I don't know who, I don't know where, when, but it definitely is not giving that signature. Yeah, so it's to say that, we got to, hurt people at work on Sunday in some versions of the Bible. Or, I've always wondered about the Ten Commandments too. Like, I don't study it, I don't adhere, but it's like, wouldn't the first one be love thyself? You don't even have to say, thou shalt not kill, which is like the sixth or the seventh command. It's like, why wouldn't that be like number two? But the first one is a very paranoid, not, thou shalt not worship any other gods before me. I mean, that's some paranoid stuff right there. And I'm surprised people don't really challenge that to say, look, man, come on. Can you at least,
You see that again? It's personified to sound like it's someone else is giving these orders, like a human's giving these orders. So when you think about it, if you're talking about who created us, like our soul essence, our consciousness, whatever you want to call that thing, I don't think that was a creation per se, as like we created AI or we created a computer game.
Yeah.
I think it was mainly thought or intent or something culminated, and we just are, and we're the ones doing the creating. We're the only ones that are doing the creating. That's the only evidence that shows we're the ones actually creating anything. And they personify these gods as humans anyway, so it's the same thing.
Yeah. Objective said there was no global flood. I don't see where there's evidence against it, because we have evidence here that actually shows it.
Yeah.
This Mount St. Helens picture of stratified rock that was created within months and less than 2 years, that the top layer was added on from ash, shows us that this, when you look at the Grand Canyon and other formations like this, which is only caused by flooding, this is not caused by just layers on top of each other over time. This was dated, shows us a scientific method of this, where it lets us know that this is actually how flooding happens. Stratified layers up to 400 feet. It was carved out within days by the pyroclastic flows and the water that erupted, the liquid, the viscous material. So like how they try to say the Colorado River carved out the plains of the Grand Canyon over millions, hundreds of millions of years, doesn't stand to reason like with this type of evidence here. And also fossils being found like trees stuck vertically, which weren't stuck in afterwards. They were stuck in during the viscous flow. So this is proving that, and these are in Nova Scotia, Canada. So you're looking at all over the world. I'm not saying that this is one flood that is globally at one time, which it could be scientifically, but there definitely is evidence, objective ethics. It's not like there's so much evidence against it. There's actually so much evidence for it when we look at it. But this evidence, they're so afraid of anything touching the sacred cow of evolution that that they'll ignore it. They'll say, well, these, were put in there afterwards, which totally defies logic. There's even ones with roots on the bottom showing. They have one flipped upside down with roots. The roots, instead of on the bottom, is on the top. So we do see these differences here. Alexis, brother, thank you for the support, bro. He says the first known real world transaction using Bitcoin was for cheese pizza from Papa John's. I just realized BTC could stand for buy the children. Holy smokes. That's deep, man. That's deep. Wow, the Bitcoin. That is, and you know something? Look at Papa John pizza again, the pizza reference. This is a really good catch, man. Thank you, Alexis. That's deep, man. Wow. So it was pizza and the BTC. Wow. Objective says, I will keep you posted. Sounds like you may enjoy watching that debate. Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that the whole Christian thing. Yeah, I definitely know what it's not, Disney K says Scribe is on the money as usual. Yeah, man, he definitely is. I mean, when I look at stuff like this, the polystrata, this can only be formed with the rock being malleable. So when they say that it took millions of years to make the layers, because somebody would say, well, that's continental, the shifting over millions of years. Shifting over millions of years would crack rock like this in this position. It would be a slow shift. This happens in a quick manner and then cools down quickly. So when we look into the geography of this, it shows us that this was not happening on a long old scale. And I know a lot of the guys have a problem with like acknowledging this, because again, just like Christianity is being debated, and I look forward to you doing that debate, evolution is it adheres to the parameters of being a religion, belief without proof, that creates a behavior that seeks a belonging, and the belonging is many of these cults that they have that will act as if they know how everything started. I've said it before, everyone's an agnostic. No matter what the belief is, nobody knows for sure. And if someone can't admit that, that's actually a lack of self-respect. That's actually thinking that you don't deserve to know the truth, or the apathy of not wanting to know the truth. So either way, it's a loss in that it shows that the person has to at least be honest with themselves. And if a person isn't honest with themselves, they will lose themselves. And being honest with yourself is a part of self-respect. I know ethics is an expert in that. Alexis Profound explains all these nutcases. Yeah, the pizza store stuff, man. Objective says Saturday's debate is on morality. My view of objective morality versus biblical morality. Yeah, I agree. The objective morality is real. That is real. The searching for truth, the self-respect for that, it's something that can be easily overlooked and disguised as if we have respect, that we're looking for truth. But the way to test if we're looking for truth or not, which is a hard one, is to say, okay, are we are we honest with us? Am I being honest? Do I really think about it? Do I really know how life started? Of course not. We have thoughts of how it could have started. So the strength is it. I have to stand alone with this most of the time because a lot of people want to say, well, no, this is the way it is. The people believe in the flat plane. The people that believe in the round plane. Sosa believes
You have all those things, but everyone wants to think in a linear path. Like this happened and this happened and this happened. And I don't think it's a linear thing as such because they want to explain it away as, start with A, start with this, like give you an easy step-to-step thing. I don't think it's anything like that whatsoever. I think it's completely layered, and there is no order in what we think order is or a linear process. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's hard to explain. But it's kind of like the quantum thing where you don't know where the two things are at the same time, whatever. There's an infinite breakdown between the 0 and the 1. Which one came first? We don't know. And that's the thing. It's a paradox within a paradox within a paradox to then create for us to live through these avatars to experience whatever this is. And I think that's the reason why it's so hard to explain because it involves stuff that's outside the scientific method that you could never test. It's not testable. That's the issue. So you can't really, say that's true or that's true, whatever. At that point, you're just believing in visions or whatever. God did it, whatever.
Yeah, or evolution did it. It's very similar to believe in God did it or evolution did it.
Yeah, and then one thing. Sorry, I wanted to say one thing that he said earlier about morals. That's the one thing AI cannot replicate: morals, because morals goes beyond intelligence, goes beyond, I guess, the goodness, right? The goodness, like, are you a selfless person, as in you'll give your life or give yourself the shirt off your back, for the well-being of someone else, regardless if they're homeless or not, or whatever the situation is, or are you one of these scumbag guys that will steal the guy's shoes or whatever, So that I don't think can be. You can hint to the AI to be moral, but it can't learn to be moral through experiences. I don't think in that way, where now it's a good person, now it's doing these good deeds because it saw the horror and whatever. Yeah, I don't think it's capable of doing that unless we add that. So that love, feelings, emotions, these things again, I don't think that can be replicated in the AI stuff, and that's what keeps us human. It keeps us to our own uniqueness that can never be replicated. So I think that's the godly essence that we carry. But therefore, we can't tell when we did not exist. So the better question is, when did you not exist versus where you came from? Was there a time that you ever felt that you did not exist and all of a sudden you existed? And what does not existing feel like? And you can't come up with an answer. You only know what it feels like to exist, or this consciousness exists, whether it's in your body or outside your body. It seems like we can't really tell, because a lot of times these NDEs, again, from what we've seen, they don't even know they're outside their body until they turn around and look at the ground. Oh, is that me? Who is that? But at first, like, there's some guy laying on the ground or some guy in the car who's gotten a car wreck, and then they look at it, wait, that's me, and they're looking down at their hands, they're looking down at their feet, and they're like, wait a second, this is, now all of a sudden they can see better, and all of a sudden they can hear better, and all of a sudden their senses have heightened, and all of a sudden, so this seems to be a pattern that we see, that we don't really even know when we're in or out of the body. Just like when you dream, a lot of time, unless you're lucid dreaming, you can't tell the difference of being in or out the body. And I think that's that stream of consciousness that stays there forever, and it just occupies as it goes, whatever your next thing's going to be. So I don't think there is a death, like they say, death as in the lights go out, just darkness. Because even if you're experiencing darkness, you're still experiencing something. And usually there is a darkness, or say go towards the light or whatever. So you can't explain what nothingness is when the lights are out. And saying lights are out again doesn't mean nothing. So it is something. So there is really nothing. If that makes sense. See, it's a paradox within itself. It's contradiction after contradiction after contradiction, because we want to look at this thing as a scientific linear A plus B plus C. There should be a progressive understanding of how this works, but it doesn't work that way. It's completely. The parts of it do, and there's other parts that are completely faith-driven, that you have to either have faith in that works that way, or an inner knowing that works that way. Again, you're believing. It's like you only get a piece of it that's physical, you can actually test, and then the rest of it is just up to faith, because you cannot test it.
Yeah.
But Scribe, if we're gods, then that means criminals are gods too, Serial killers are gods, and good people are gods too, and they all make up their own their own ethical rules, and they're all different. So who's
Yeah.
right, who's wrong at that
Well, the
point?
gods, there is no right or wrong. That's,
Mhm.
that's the thing. I'm going to say what
I
is
mean,
good, what is evil, what is good. It comes from your particular situation, is what you
So it's
claim
all a
is what.
taste. It's all a taste.
If you grew up in Iraq versus U.S., your definition definition of who's evil is going to be the opposite, right? So it's going to be on just where you're born already changes all that. So
so you're
who
saying
you are.
objectives is subjective than ethics, you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely, because it depends on where you grew up. Because someone to you, oh, that's an evil person because he happens to be from a country that my country hates, even though that guy could be my brother, could be my best friend, but I'm going to hate that guy because he's of color or whatever it is, some
Yeah.
a Chinese guy, whatever it is. So you have these preconceived notions already built in there, and you're creating your own thing of hatred and evil and good, and you're stating what's good and evil, and you're deciding like what you think good and evil is. Someone said, no, that's you crazy. You think that's good? That's evil, man. What are you talking about? And it's back and forth. So there is no definition really of what's good and evil. It's only the subject of you. Are you so heartless that you're gonna allow this stuff to happen? Are you gonna allow your kid to, live
But
on the
that's a
street?
taste, though. He might think he's doing good. You say it's heartless, but he might think it's good what he's doing.
But no,
It's up to how it affects you, Mister. Because if you were a computer, you wouldn't care, right? So how much does it affect you personally? By affecting you that much, and you say, no, I know deep down that's not right. That's got to account for something. Versus the other guy who's just totally non-empathetic, crazy, psychopath type of person,
But
narcissistic
if
guy
it's
who doesn't care.
subjective, like you said, Scribe, it's just a taste. It's just your vision of what's good because you're a god and he's a god too. And it's just you each make your own rules and no one's right, no one's wrong. I mean, the
Exactly. So
mustache
this.
man, in his mind, he wasn't wrong on what he did. The mustache man during World
Well,
War II.
but then you get a dose of reality here. So if you start doing stupid stuff, you're gonna feel the wrath of something. You're gonna get something, karma, whatever you want to call it. Something bad's probably
Well,
gonna happen.
now see when you say karma, you're appealing to a higher power. If there's karma, then we're not gods because
Oh
then
no,
karma.
I would say balance, just balance of.
But if we're gods, we can create the balance. If we're gods, we determine what's balanced. If there's something above us that can come back and then we're not the gods, obviously. If there's
Just
some
put it this
law
way: we're getting
above
we're
us.
getting a taste of our own medicine to make us humble at some point. It's like you think you're badass. We're gonna put you over here. You're gonna feel the pain. Now you got to fight somebody. Now you're gonna feel every blow. Blood's gonna be coming out. All that. Whereas you're not used to that. But now we're gonna put you into that so you learn humility or something. You're gonna learn. If you do certain things, these things could happen.
But what
And
defines being a badass? I mean, like, let's say I give money to the poor. Let's say I help out poor people, homeless people on the street. I give
yeah.
them a meal every day. Is it going to come back to haunt me
And
because I'm doing wrong in
that's
somebody's eye?
no,
that's
people are gonna start helping you.
objective
No, I'm
says,
helping. I'm helping
yeah,
the people out, but it's
hop
no
on
different than me
objective.
abusing the people. There's no difference. It's just a taste. So either way, is it going to come back to haunt me?
No,
That's
but
what
I'm saying there's a good chance that one of those guys might tell somebody who is of money or whatever. I'm saying it allows it opens just like if you started rob and doing bad stuff, someone's gonna see you or
But
someone's gonna
again,
say
what's
something.
bad? What's bad? What if I'm giving food to the homeless is a bad thing? It's no different than somebody stealing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's all relative.
Some of
I don't
them say
understand.
that interrupts their karma. Like you can help people, but you can't help beyond a certain objective is challenging. If you want to hop on, yeah, maybe you should jump on. We got the link pinned up here in the top of the chat if you want to hop on. I think even Disney K is opposing
Well,
that. I mean,
I'm wrong by somebody else's morality standards, but I'm saying if we decide what's moral because we're gods or we're the ultimate decision maker of what's moral, right, and wrong, then it's all just a taste.
but is it God as in the sense of a person can act in a moralistic godlike way? So when they're acting moralistic, they're being godlike, and when they're doing the serial killer, they're not.
But
Like
that implies a being above ourselves to determine who is right and who is wrong, the serial killer or the person who gives money to the
no,
poor.
that's the thing. We don't, even if something was more powerful saying that the serial killer was right, we know innately that that's not right. We know that when you have a child, you don't want anybody to serial kill that. So even if that deity is saying that that's right, it would
But
be.
But the serial killer doesn't see it that way. He's got his own ethical standards.
No, I know. So it's like maybe and that's the thing evolution can't explain. It's ethics. He made a point earlier about where was it? Like he said, this thing, you can't get something from nothing. So that disproves the Big Bang, because they say it a point of nothing, right? Before the Big Bang, that excludes it. So it's like, how do you even get existence? So in other words, if you, Objective, I think, is here. He's ready to, what's up, brother? Good to see you. And yeah, so, when you look at that, so in other words, if you can't get nothing from something, how does life even start from? So it has to be some type of,
it has to be supernatural. It has to be a miracle. There's no other way.
I wouldn't say miracle, supernatural. I would say there's something else.
Why does it have to be something above? I'm saying, what if we're the ones experiencing that, and some of these guys, from our point of view, are what we call evil, whatever, Dahmer and all that stuff, and they're just, like that's one of these guys. They're in death row for like 30 years. Like, if we let you out today, would you go out there and continue killing women? He's like, yeah, I would. I know it's wrong. He even says, I know it's wrong, but his impulses literally control him, is what he's saying.
But if Germany had won World War II, then the moral ethical standard would be by the government would be totally different. Getting rid of certain people who are less than would be perfectly legal under the German law. If they won the war, it'd be perfectly legal to exterminate certain groups of people. That would not be a moral. You would never go to court. You'd never do time if you were doing it in the name of the state. Just like Russia did. They killed over 20 million who didn't agree with the state. So.
Yeah, but 20 to 40. What if we didn't win World War II? It doesn't seem that way.
No, that's another issue.
Well,
you'd still be in the same spot regardless. Same people are in control. So again, we think that these things are actually going to do anything, but they're there to push an agenda, and they do it real slowly, so you don't notice it, and bang, there it is. But I'm talking about personal morality, our own morality. Forget everyone else. For you, yourself, your essence, your God energy. What you've been able to decipher what's good and evil to you is based on what you experienced, what you know, how you lived, how you grew up. That's all you're based off of. So,
right. And Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy have their own experiences too, and who's right, who's wrong. That's the issue. Everybody has
but the difference is the essence. That guy came in already wanting to do that. Like, he started with the animals, and he went up to the humans.
Right. And he's not alone. There's a lot of guys like him, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys like that. So it means that there's other people out there that are on the other side of the spectrum who you could consider of the evil side, but they're still here with us. They're not maximum security in some other Earth, stored away somewhere else.
No, but there's some guys who've never been caught. There's also guys who've never been caught. There's plenty of those stories out there.
I'm just saying, whenever you do this kind of stuff, like, I've had some trauma in my life doing some stupid shit, and I've had nightmares and stuff because of it. So, even though they think they're getting away with whatever, and that's all good, they're going to have nightmare. All that stuff's going to happen. So
that's not necessarily true. I don't agree with that, because I honestly believe the guy who robs a little old lady, he probably sleeps like a baby. He probably has no problem at all. Whereas somebody like me and you would have a big problem in our lives. The guilt would eat us up. But there's other people, they have no problem stealing from other people at all. They sleep perfectly fine. They don't have any nightmares.
Yeah, until someone pulls a gun out and shoots them or something, then it's going to be real traumatic.
That's totally different. I'm just talking.
So it doesn't. That goes up, right?
Yeah, but their ethical standards don't look at it as anything wrong. To them, that's an honest living. They're going, when they go to rob, they're doing their job. The mafia.
Right, maybe they're on their path to figure out, I got to hit rock bottom to understand this. I got to be put in the hospital, body cast, teeth knocked out, to finally learn not to mess with these people or not to do dumb stuff or whatever.
Or run for political office.
What about mental illness if they still don't learn? Like, it could be, like, what is
that too? Yeah, that's something I don't know. Then that person or that soul is unfortunately going to have to go through some real serious situations. Because there have been stories of guys like that.
It's biblical there, Scribe. You're getting biblical.
No, it's not really getting biblical. I'm saying okay, they could say, "Oh, I'm a new born again Christian," whatever it is. But I'm saying, well,
no, but you mentioned the soul. You mentioned the spirit. There's something else beyond the physical that matters.
Your energy, life force. Let's put it that way. They want to call it the soul to make it more biblical or whatever. But your energy, life source, your energy, your essence, wherever that came from. doesn't have a beginning or end to it, doesn't know when it was non-existent versus existent, because you're existing right now. You don't remember a time that you never existed, because you can't even conjure that in your head of what non-existence even is. Therefore, this just goes on and on and on, and you realize that your consciousness doesn't age and your body does age. And then your body can affect your consciousness, the brain, all that stuff, dementia, whatever, but that's just blocking. But inside your brain, inside your real soul, you're still fully functional. So you see these old people that they literally can't talk, but their soul is still fully functional, but it's just the physical body that's, shutting down.
Sure.
So just that alone already tells you whatever that thing is that's there, it's fully active, fully alive, has never wavered, has never changed, has never gotten old, has never gotten a disease, has never done nothing. The only thing got disease is that body. The only thing that got old is that body. So your energy, life force, energy cannot be destroyed nor created. There it is.
That's one way of looking at it. We got Objective in the back if he wants to hop in. Just hop in anytime.
Yeah, come on in.
Yeah, just really quick and I'm on my phone because my laptop is open with my debate stuff I'm working on. Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you
perfectly.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Yeah, I really don't have a lot of time because I'm getting down to it and I've got to be ready for this debate Saturday. I do take formal debates very seriously because, they're moderated and all that kind of stuff. And I only debate stuff that I feel strongly about. And morality is one of them. But I couldn't miss this opportunity to have this conversation because this is like my favorite topic. But, you guys are onto something. So it's not like when I say you're wrong, you're just entirely wrong, because it really depends on the language and the direction you're looking at it from. But to get objective morality, there's a couple of different ways you can get it. My argument for objective morality is so strong because I can ground it metaphysically in truth, just things that just simply are, because that's the world that we live in. But I can also ground it with a normative, an objective normative, and the normative is what we ought to do, right? What I ought to do or ought not to do. And so normative assumes that a rational, reasonable person, a person who has access to a reasonable mind. So when you talk about somebody like a Jeffrey Dahmer, he has a mental disorder, so he doesn't actually have access to morality. He doesn't understand. He doesn't. We all have access to it, but he doesn't understand it. So he doesn't understand what's wrong. He knows it's wrong because people are telling him it's wrong to off women or whatever, but he doesn't actually understand it because his mind is broken. So to get normative, you have to assume a normal functioning mind, right? What would a normal, rational, reasonable person do in this situation? So you can get objective morality on both ends if you can make the right argument. You can't get it on both ends.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Of course.
Was World War in Germany in World War II, were they rational and reasonable?
No.
Okay.
I would say
that was
no.
one of the most educated societies in the world. They were innovators.
You could be really intelligent, but that doesn't mean rational or reasonable.
Okay.
So they were very intelligent, but not rational or reasonable. So you can also defend objective morality through logic, which is another way to ground it, because you get a logical contradiction. So the logical contradiction with the Nazi Germany situation is Hitler and the Axis powers valued their freedom and well-being. Even if they didn't articulate that, they showed it by their actions, right? By going to war and by capturing people in these concentration camps and whatever else. So they showed that they valued their freedom and well-being. When they took people, the Jews, and they put them in the concentration camps and took away their freedom and well-being, they could do that because they're very powerful, but they could not epistemically justify it without creating a logical contradiction, because they know inherently that freedom and well-being has value, right? So does that make sense? So they prove that they know because of their actions that freedom and well-being has value. So when they take that thing that they know has value away from somebody else, they cannot say, I'm morally justified to do that. They can do it because they had tanks and bombs and all that kind of shit, but they can't justify it epistemically without creating a logical contradiction.
Well, I mean, in their minds, they thought that was ending what was destroying their country, the other races that were using them, the bankers and so forth, and the people that betrayed Germany in World War One. I mean, that was their justification, and a lot of people agreed with it.
Yeah, people could try and justify things all they want, but once you actually break it down, to what
Mhm.
is at the very, very core, at the very bottom of the whole thing that props everything up. Every single human being needs their freedom and well-being to accomplish their goals, to take action. They set goals and take actions as moral agents, which all human beings are. And so, as a moral agent, the Nazis, whoever we're talking about, and it's people engaging in the North Atlantic slave trade, anybody you think of in like dominant, whoever, they any moral agent sets goals and takes actions. Well, they need their freedom and well-being to accomplish their goals. So again, there's the logical contradiction that gets introduced. You can't justify it because you're trying to justify a square circle. You can make the claim and you can try to convince people by using all kinds of words, or you can just force people by using bombs and grenades or whatever, but you can't actually logically justify it. It breaks down.
When we look at this from a perspective, that's assuming that everyone is equal, that everyone is going to have this objective morality equally. It doesn't make sense logically. So it's actually the opposite.
No. Ontologically, we are equal.
Not really. When you think about it, nothing is equal. If you look in life, now I understand the thought of people should be treated equally, but when you look at everything, people are not equal. And this is not against anybody of any type, but we have different levels of intelligence in certain fields. You might be much more intelligent in the field of technical construction. I might be much more intellectual or intelligent in the field of research or something else. Scribe is intelligent in his own way, just like Mr. X. So we're not equal in our same intelligences, and there's differences. Some of us can feel more. Some of us are taller. Some are shorter. Some are bigger. Some are thinner. There's inequality showing everywhere to us, but
that's way downstream. Ontologically, the ontology, the actual source is equal. You and I both bleed red. We both feel hunger. We both need shelter. We both have the same fundamental needs because ontologically we're human beings.
Well, again, this is based on thinking, how existence came into being, because it's the study of existence, reality, the nature of being. Now,
it doesn't even have to. No, it doesn't even require that. It's just when you cut your finger, we could do experiments on it. We do it all the time. We go to the hospital. When you injure yourself, you get the same medical treatment that I need. If I have the same injury, so on and so forth. We are human beings.
On the hospital, not two people get the same treatment. Not saying that they.
No. But the same treatment applies to all human beings.
Well, no.
If all like cases were alike, right? You and I both bleed red, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have red blood. Nobody here thinks they have purple or green blood.
Now,
that's right. But we all bleed red blood. Nobody here has purple blood.
Let me jump in, because I think what MD is trying to say, he's saying not just the physical, because people like to attach themselves to that when they talk about ontological things. What about the spiritual side of that, where this person is just a certain different way, or I had it, but you know what I'm saying, like the.
I understand.
How do you explain the consciousness side? The difference in the conscious side. Versus one person is telepathic.
Right. There's a mental side of the conscious. Go ahead.
Like one guy's telepathic, one guy is clairvoyant, another guy could be a psychic, another guy could be like, there's different levels to that, and then other people apparently just don't feel nothing. How do you explain that side versus the physical?
Oh, well, I'm talking about the physical needs that we have, because we're talking about what we ought to do with each other, right? So we have to have. So we can look at one. We can look at one common thing that we all share. We have, like you said, the things you're talking about right now, the telepathy, however you say that, telepathy, I think I said that right. Things like that are very much like what Max is talking about, except you're talking about a spiritual or maybe mental. I'm not sure how you would define that, but it's not like Max is saying. People have different intelligences, and some people are better singers, and some people are better painters.
Abilities, let's just say abilities.
But none of that has anything to do with the actual ontology, the physically.
No, it does.
All are equal.
The reason it does is what you're saying about when we look deeper, we see that there is a difference. On the surface, it's like, yeah, everybody bleeds red. But as we look deeper, we see, wait a minute, that's not the same red. This red has something different in it than this red. This red cannot be mixed because they can't give a donor. This red is a universal donor. So it's like water, vodka, and formaldehyde. To assume that they're all the same because they look the same, we see is incorrect scientifically. We see that
No, they're still basically made up of DNA, right? So it's still the same structure, just because you have A
different
type,
types of
B
DNA.
type, and negative and positive, and
Those are
zero.
different types. You see what I'm saying? So to say
Yeah, but it's all made up of DNA, though.
But there's different types. There's some people that will heal better with certain medicines than other people. So it's even showing us that one size does not fit all. I've studied medicine for 20 years, more, matter of fact, with medical doctors. And there's a guy who has a channel on Facebook that I knew back in the early 2000s, and he has problems with other doctors. There's many, many people that that talk about the germ theory versus the terrain theory, which makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm not saying germs don't exist, but they have a good point with saying that, look, if something is not in your body, you cannot grow the disease. It's like a person with a lawn and they have a patch and they say, man, this patch is not growing grass. They have to do something to it, fertilize it with a certain type of environment. So change the environment to get it to grow. The terrain theory protects us from that, to say, look, if you don't have this in your body, you don't have to worry if you come in contact with the contagion. And this is in certain theories. So as we look at blood and we look at different things, yeah, we might go to the hospital and get the same Band-Aid, but that Band-Aid might work better on some person, and another person, it might be better not to put the Band-Aid on. And we see this to be true too in science. We see that what this one size fit all thing, it tries to fit us in this parameter, which does stem from the belief in evolution, and it's not saying nothing bad about people that believe in that or people that believe in the religious deity, but they're very similar because it's based on a belief. The biggest thing of being honest with ourselves is we don't know where we come from. We know when
but none of this has to do with what I'm talking. Evolution. This is not about evolution.
No, I know, but it goes back to your point of saying we're all the same, we're all this, because you see, it's a buckle in the floor way back coming now, and you see the problem with it, saying no, we based it on something wrong to begin with. We based it on an assumption rather than science, saying, look, we all bleed the same, we all get the same treatment. But as we analyze it deeper, we see that that's not necessarily true. And that's where science really shines, because it lets us know that, like what Scribe was saying, we won't even take that into consideration right now, but we need to, that there's parts of things in our mind, there's abilities we have, that anytime we go to search this, science, the pseudoscience establishment pushes us away, says that's not scientific. Dr. Dean Radin does psychic studies funded by the government, and he even has interviews on YouTube now where he says, look, I can't even ask the question at some points, because if you go against this theory of what things are based on, they look at you as, oh, you're unscientific, which now it's very hard to make progress. If I didn't break it down the way I just broke it down, it would be hard to know, because it would say, well, all right, what's MD really saying? So I had to make sure that not just being articulate, but trying to explain it in understood parameters where we could say, okay, yes, this, when we look at it deeper, we're seeing that on surface, again, it goes back to inference, which is what evolution is based on, which leaks down to this, because it makes another inference of saying, well, we all look the same, we all this, the blood's the same. And it's like, no, that's an inference. It's like somebody going to the beach with a towel. They are not necessarily going in the water, nor don't know if they're just going to lay the blanket on the sand and lay on it on the sand. They might go in the water. So this inference of everything is equal on this point, the ontology only in this area, just doesn't stand up scientifically as we go deeper, which goes back to the question again, okay, I don't know, and I'm trying to make my way through it with what I do know. And as I start to look deeper at what I do know, it shows me how much I still don't know. And that position is what throws that away, or what masks us from seeing it, is the ego of thinking that we know how life was created. So on both religions, one will say God did it, the other will say chance did it. So the God of chance, which we see just doesn't add up. If we could look at stuff and repeat these tests, we would say, oh, yeah, that's not a chance. There's something behind it, either in the environment or in the chemicals or even in the genes that is causing that to happen and repeat. Now, how that thing got in the genes, how the chemical, now they call chemical affinities, have this affinity or this magnetic attraction, or maybe it's a type of attraction that isn't magnetic. This is where the science shines. And as we know for sure, schooling is meant not to teach us. So we know that what we've been taught in the area of, okay, we should know this because we went to school of this, we got to throw that out the door because we know that it was meant to confuse.
Okay, you've overloaded objective. I mean, listen, I'm being very patient. You've overloaded him already. I want to hear what he says. You're being really good.
Yeah, there's just so much of that just is just not relative to what I'm talking about. And I know you guys are in the middle of something, and I kind of jumped in here, and I'm short on time. But
no,
man,
it's always a pleasure to have you on.
But can I mention to objective? You said
Okay, no.
I was going to ask him a question though.
He already got a bunch of stuff for MD though. Did you want to?
No, it's going to be a quick question. I wasn't going to make a statement, just a quick question. It's just like when you talk about people getting health care equally, but there was a time in this country when if you didn't have the right skin color, you were not getting the same treatment at all, and it took a civil war to decide what was going to happen.
I'm absolutely aware. I don't deny history. I absolutely did happen. It's a shame. So you guys mentioned genes, right? I mentioned DNA, you mentioned genes, right? Does everybody here agree that we all have genes and we all have DNA?
Yeah, of course.
Because so we have a starting ground. Ontologically, we have a starting ground right there, right? Which we could look at that we're all equal because we all share that trait. Forget everything else.
It doesn't make us equal. It says what it says. We all have that trait. It is.
But isn't that your taste?
No. Wait.
But let's say we assume that.
We all have eyes. We all have skin. No. Wait. I'm putting it in a way because there's a few times where he didn't understand because I didn't explain it well enough, probably. But it has exactly to do with what we're talking about. And this is what I said before. Everything I said exactly pertains to this, just the way you just said genetics. Yes, we all have genetics. They are not equal. They are different. Some of our genetics make us different colors, different heights, different resiliences.
But I didn't say they're the same. I didn't say we have the same genes.
You said
we all have genes.
If you say equal,
equal is not same. Equal is not saying the same. We got to think of like cases.
Building blocks.
Germany would disagree with you on
right. We have the building blocks.
No,
we all have these building blocks, and they get built in different ways, right? So, a big bucket of.
Wait. This is what it shows that your argument is incorrect. The synonym for equal is same. So what you said about equal not being the same, it equal means being the same. It means identical. It means equivalent. You can look this up. So I'm showing you that what you're basing it on is wrong. You're telling me that, well, we all have genes, but I said they're the same, but they're not equal. Equal and the same mean the same things. You see, so this is where I'm trying to correct you to say, look, it's not.
No, I understand what you're saying. But it's like saying, I'm trying to see if I can. No, I understand what you're saying, brother. And I'm trying to see if I can come up with an analogy.
It's the science, brother. It's when you say we all have genes, we're all equal, or we're all the same and we're not equal. That's a mental, that's an opposite there. It's like saying it's blue, but it's also red, or blue, but this is blue and that's different blue. It's like, no, blue is blue. If it's equal, it's the same, it's the equivalent, it's identical. So
yeah, but it would be like saying, okay, in trying to think of an analogy with what you're working with here. So blue and green are not the same, right?
But blue and what you're saying is
they're not the same. Blue and red are not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right. But they are both light waves.
Well, but they're different. It's like saying, okay, they're light waves.
Both at the base, at the core of it, though, it's made out of the same stuff.
But you're trying to different, like what I said before, as we analyze it more, we see that, wait a minute, it comes from something that is the same or similar. They're similar light waves, but they're actually very different. This one leans toward the ultraviolet. This one leans toward the infrared. And we're still not sure about the whole.
But we could group them into light waves.
Okay, just like genes can be rooted into the DNA,
Genes.
but
Right.
this means that they're not equal. You're saying they're the
Just
same.
like
Okay,
A type
he's
A.
basically saying it's
Right,
put
right,
to an
hold on. He said
algorithm
they're the
using
same. No, but
variables.
he said they're the same. He said this. He said they're the same, but
No,
they're
it's an
not.
algorithm with different variables that are similar
No, you
genes, but
can't
it's
have
going to an
something
algorithm.
being the same and not equal. It would
But
have to be a different word. That's what I'm saying. So when I say that we're not all equal, because even those genes are similar, they are not the
We're
same.
saying it's not a static variable. Static variable means it's the same variable no matter what. He's saying it's going through an algorithmic sequence that has different genes labeled as different variables. In this case, we're talking about programming.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. To identify each different gene and how they mix and how they go through this algorithm. There's an algorithmic limitation to this
But he's saying
process. So
they're
there's many
equal,
different.
right? Are they? See,
No, well, I think that was the misinterpretation to say when
no,
he's
he
saying
said
equal,
they're equal. He
he's
said
saying
they're
that we're
the same.
limited to this algorithmic thing, which contains multiple genes, multiple outcomes, multiple things within this. He generalized it way too much, and you come
Exactly.
on this channel, we're gonna nitpick.
I
Yeah,
can't grow wings and fly. You can't grow wings and fly. Right? We
Okay.
have the same
yeah.
restriction.
Now we're
I need to
getting.
eat to
Yeah.
survive. I need to breathe
Uh-huh.
air to survive. You guys all share
Right.
those
So
those common.
he's speaking
You're
very
trying to
generally.
establish equality based on the physical. That's what I see what you're trying to do.
No, no,
Yes.
no.
Yes. Yes.
No, he's trying to do that. But Mr. Rex, we can't bring this to the non-physical. In the physical, it's not equal. You see,
I
so
agree. I agree.
well, that's where we got to stay to say, okay, what he's saying is it's not correct in the manner of things might seem equal. Oh, DNA is the same, it's similar, but like the light waves, they're different as we look deeper. The DNA is different. Now, what he eats, what some people eat according to their blood type, is beneficial to them. That same food is not beneficial to somebody with a different blood type, which on the
Yeah.
surface looks like red blood. So we see that we're not all equal. What you were saying is we both eat the same food. We don't. We both
Well, it's not
breathe the
just a
same
certain.
air.
We only have red blood cells and white blood cells and plasma, right? We don't. There's no other. There's not like purple blood. Nobody's got purple or green blood,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Mhm.
Hmm.
So there are things, traits that we actually do share, even though
Yeah.
there might be differences within that set. There's
Yeah.
still sets that we all
Similar
share.
traits.
We all
So-
have the same basic needs of
No, it's
food,
not the same.
shelter.
It's not the same. It's similar, not the same. So similar is saying you need a type of food that will benefit you more. Now we can both eat the same type of food, but that food is going to benefit somebody.
No, the
with this
food is the
blood-
set. The set is what's the same.
the
So
set-
a set can contain many different variables that can be different, but the set overall food we need.
yeah. But it's
Yeah,
similar.
right.
It's not the same. You
They're
see,
the
so
same set.
no.
It is the same. It has different variables, but it's the same set. It's called food.
But when you look, like I said before,
Right.
when you look deeper into it, that's when
Yeah,
you see
right.
the difference.
You can absolutely find. Yeah, you can. Sure, you can find
So-
lots of
so it
differences.
shows
Right. We all
that
jump, but we let's
So
say two
there's
people
not
can
a-
jump. So
there's
they
not
share
a-
that set of being able to jump. One guy jumps higher, one guy jumps farther, but they both
Mhm.
jump. Right.
All
So
right.
we have. So what we do is we look for common ground. We can find common ground that link all people together.
That's the one size fits all that doesn't work. That's the medication that kills.
It actually
10,000
does work.
people.
It actually does work, brother.
No,
You
no.
need to eat. You need food and shelter. That's a fact. You can't.
What about-
There's no way around it. You need food and shelter to survive.
That is a fact. That is a
I,
fact.
I
But the
need food and
medicine-
shelter to survive. That's a fact.
All right.
So
now
that's the common ground that we can build up of. Those facts are common, and everybody on this panel and everybody watching the show shares those same basic fundamental needs.
Food and
that
shelter is
escape-
relative. That's a relative statement because some people, food and shelter is living in a mansion and having a private chef, and then they consider
You guys
that.
are getting so caught up on all
Okay.
these things that really,
Real quick,
really mean
at
nothing.
this point, I know what they're doing. Real quick, they're nitpicking and stuff. I wanted to objectively get past this part because we got stuck in this
I'm just
thing.
saying the physical can't lead to equality. That's all my whole point is.
I know. I'm just saying
the
that
physical.
we're kind of just getting really nitpicky on what that means. So I'm saying we can understand what he's saying. It's within a set variable limitations. It doesn't go out. You're not gonna have blue people and green people because there's a mutation or something crazy going on, or wings and all that. So we know there's a limit to that, and there's a sequence to that, and there's a So beyond that, you're talking about the morals.
Right.
Like, what was
Right,
the point you wanted to
exactly.
get to with the morals? What was the rest
So
of the story?
basically, because ontologically nature has set up certain rules, whether it comes from a mind or just natural processes is irrelevant. So let's not even go down that rabbit hole. There are certain processes that we live within, right? This need for food and shelter is where it really starts with our need for freedom and well-being, because we are moral agents. We have minds that cause us to set goals. And we all have this, any healthy mind can set goals and take action. So we need this freedom and well-being. So we have these certain things in common that we share. So you could build up from there to get an objective standard for moral truths, to get a normative, like what you guys are really talking about and focusing on all these differences, these variables. The way you overcome all these variables is with the qualifier of if. It's called the hypothetical imperative from Kant, right? So for example, if a surgeon wants to perform a successful surgery, he ought to sterilize his equipment, right? We know this objectively because it's an objective fact that germs exist and that sterilized equipment will provide a better chance, mathematically speaking, of performing a successful surgery without introducing infections, right? So you have a hypothetical, if the surgeon wants to do X, he ought to do Y. Same thing with morality. If you want to live in a world without theft, you ought not steal from people, because it's a fact that stealing from people sabotages your goal.
No, that's
But what if I like
It's an
stealing from
objective
people?
fact.
You know, and I
If
think
you want to
it's
live, if
Okay, then you don't
world-
want to live. If you like stealing from people, then you don't want to live in a world without stealing.
You're looking at
okay. The reason, my reason is I think
No,
the
hold on
government
a
are
second,
criminals,
He's
and I have
looking
a
at it
justification
from-
for it.
The position is
I'm asking,
incorrect.
you went back and forth for a long time.
All right,
Another
go
thing I
ahead.
wanna
Go
ask you.
ahead, man.
Yeah. So what if I want to do that because I have this vigilante thing where I think the government's doing whatever, Robin Hood style, where I think we're being, have the ability to possibly do that. I think it's the right thing. It's a moral thing to not have hunger, to not have poor people, and I'm going out just robbing rich people, man. I'm just going out. In my mind, it's
Then you run
moral.
then you run into the logical contradiction, because you don't want the government to come steal your shit. So you know that your shit has value, that people value their shit. And so you're going to go take somebody else's shit and you're going to justify it, just like we were talking about before with the Nazis or the slave traders or whoever. People can justify all kinds of things, but they can't actually logically, epistemically justify it without running into a contradiction. And contradictions, one or both propositions, must be false. So
But
you value
did
your
that
stuff,
stop that?
so you could go. What's that?
But did the contradiction, is that what ended slavery in this country, or was it the barrel of a gun in a world war that ended it? See what I'm saying? I don't think the
recognition that it was the recognition by the majority of people that owning another human being was morally wrong.
No,
I think it was the superiority of the army that ended it.
Yeah, exactly. It came from death. It wasn't
That
like
was
people
that,
said,
yeah, but what motivated? See, all actions are motivated. So what motivated that action?
well, the gun also motivates it to
No,
make
but
it
what motivated picking up the gun? The gun doesn't do anything by itself. It sits on the
No,
table.
exactly.
What motivated somebody?
the fact
What
that
motivated
they had
somebody?
the fact that they had to pick up the gun shows us it wasn't agreed upon. It wasn't reconciled. It's that
Yes.
No, I understand. What motivated the people to pick up the gun, though?
the people that were motivated to pick the gun up was a political order. It wasn't a motivation that was genuine. It was, you are going to fight in this war or we're going to fight you. And this is why they drafted people into the war to do that. So this was done not by choice. You see, when we look into this, we start to say, wait a second, we've got it backwards. If you want people to stop stealing, yes, teaching them morality of why you shouldn't steal because you don't want your stuff stolen is only one small piece of the puzzle. The big piece that will get people to stop stealing is if they have. When somebody has something, they have less likeliness to steal if they're taught when they have it to say, listen, you see that you have enough. So we got to teach you about greed, about not being greedy, because that's going to influence you to take somebody's thing that you don't even need. Now, I can understand if you're taking it and you need it. If you need to eat, if you need shelter, if you need clothing, I can understand somebody. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm understanding why they would do it. Now, how do I eliminate them from doing that? I give them and make sure they have enough food. They make sure they have enough clothing and have enough shelter. But now going with that needs to be taught not to be greedy, not to steal, because now we're maintaining it. You can't just create that out of saying, look, if you want to stop theft, don't steal from somebody else. No, this person is going to steal if they need the food.
No,
So
I'm just pointing out that it's objectively true. It's an objective moral truth. It's a fact that's true. If you want to live in a world without stealing, the very first thing you do is you don't steal. Because if I want to live
that
in
is
a world,
not the first thing.
But I don't do that, and I still live in a world where stealing.
Exactly. Well, the thing
no,
is,
I said that's the first thing. The other thing that you do is you prohibit other people from stealing. Right. So you set laws.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
No. This is
those are all downstream problems. The question at hand is it objectively true or not? That's the only thing I came up here to talk about. How you implement all this stuff is downstream problems. The origin of life is a downstream problem from where we're right here.
You're acting as if this is the main thing that's going to solve it when it's a secondary thing. I'm not talking about solving anything. I'm just talking about the objective truth. Oh,
that's
okay.
all.
I was going to ask him real quick. Let me ask him, what is the objective truth?
No. What has it led us to? It has led us to.
What is it? I'm asking. I don't know.
It led us to a higher incarceration rate. The thing that you're saying, tell people, enforce the law that they shouldn't steal. Now, if we were to do the other thing first and say, look, we're going to provide them with what they need. Now they don't have a need to steal. If they steal now, we're going to show them like, look, this is not correct. And this is the punishment for that, because you have what you need. We understand that now there is no need for you to steal. Like Finland is a shining example of this. They are trying to tell the West that, look, they housed all of their homeless people and it was actually cheaper. It was cheaper than keeping them on the street. So it's economically feasible, even if it's not moral or it is moral, whatever. They said, listen, as far as business wise, it's cheaper to keep them inside. So now taking that logic right there, we see that the scarcity that we see in America is manufactured. It is not because people are like to steal and don't understand that stealing is wrong. People know that stealing is wrong. Some people might have a mental problem, and then we still have to analyze what a mental problem really is. To say Jeffrey Dahmer was crazy is not really it's kind of dismissive of it. It's like just when we were talking about the book about people eating people, that this is not a new thing with just Jeffrey Dahmer. You had aristocrats that did this. So when you looked at him and you seen how he stood trial, you say, this guy ain't really your average nutcase. He's not like the school shooter type of guy. So you start to say, what is it really that's going on? We have a psychological system that's based on total bias. Remember, Benjamin Rush's, his picture still adorns the psychiatric hospitals as the father of modern psychology. He's the guy that said drapetomania was a real illness of slaves wanting to escape because their skin was dark, and the remedy was to beat them. Now, we know that this is not right, but this is what they still base it. They still have this guy up there as, well, we learned so much from Benjamin Rush. Just because they had the barrel of the gun to stop slavery doesn't mean that slavery stopped. So it wasn't a mental decision. You got people today that are still talking about slavery should have never ended in America. So just like drugs, you make them illegal. Did that stop people from doing drugs? No. So we're seeing that the laws that you're talking about, it would be great if that could happen, if people would stop stealing. But realistically, to get people just to lower the theft is to make sure people has what they want. All these people that go in the store and they steal stuff and all of that, say, okay, what did he steal? All right, give it to him. Make sure he has enough of this. Let's see if he comes back and steals that item again. You see, so if he's stealing, all right, what is he stealing it for now? To sell it to get money? Make sure he has enough money. Was he using the money to get? Okay, make sure he has that. Now you start to do a scientific way of, okay, we've solved the reason in the basic thing of saying he doesn't have a mental disease like kleptomania or whatever. Kleptomania was a disease created to hide stealing from the rich, to say if a rich person stole, they had kleptomania. If a poor person stole, it was theft. And you can look this up. It's all psychology of how they use words to control us. When I looked at that as a kid, I said, wait, what's kleptomania? So if this person steals, this person's a kleptomaniac. They need help. If this person steals, it's theft and they need to go to jail and be punished. It's like an insane asylum. And if we don't realize that what we're trying to base this on is based inside of an insane asylum, we'll always be wrong. We'll never get close to truth. This is why you got people saying they're agnostics, but they believe in a religion, whether it be deity, evolution, polytheistic. It's still a belief. To be an agnostic is not to have a belief. It's to say, listen, I don't know. I know some things. I don't know some things. And then I think about things. Thinking suspends my belief. But when we base it on a belief to say, well, you know, all of this looks the same. If we did this, it would just stop. All right, let's test that. And we see that after we test it, it doesn't stand up.
Well, agnostic actually could mean a lot of different things. The etymology of agnostic goes back to ancient. Etymology of agnostic goes back to ancient Greece, and it was specifically a word that was used to describe people who do not think it's possible to know if a God exists. That's where agnostic comes from. Now, people use it differently today, when I say I'm agnostic, it's agnostic about a specific
brother, you're incorrect. You said it goes back to Greek history. This is the
ancient Greece. Yeah.
No. Pre-Greek.
Agnosis. Agnostic is without gnosis is knowledge, and
you can look it up.
I studied this in college. So
they taught you wrong, because right here
that's possible. That's possible.
Yeah. Now look it up. Pre-Greek history, rooted in, again, what they mislabeled Proto-Indo-European, which is really Indo. It's nothing to do with European, because this is based on the false Aryan invasion theory, which has been debunked. There's videos on it, everything. Now, it's based on, let's just, for sake of argument, the Proto-Indo-European. So the own science from the West is saying that agnostic.
So give me the root then. Give me the root of it.
The root is pre-Greek, Proto-Indo-European.
The root of the word agnostic.
I'm giving you the root right now. GNO, no, to know. It breaks down into the prefix without. So nostikos, knowing. So without knowing. To deeper origin in the Proto-European root is the GNO, which also produced English words like know and knowledge. So this comes before Greece. Now, this is where we have to be honest with ourselves again. There has to be a source that came before that, but we know for sure that the oldest thing wasn't ancient Greece. It goes way before that.
That's fine, but what was the usage?
No, but this is the usage, like I just said, without knowing. The nostikos is knowing, the GNO, the know, is the without. So without knowing. And now we have to remember that you were basing this all on what you just said. You're not going to understand this right now in 10 minutes. So you have to contemplate this and say, okay, I was wrong. And where was I wrong at? Why did I believe that? Because science isn't based on belief. So again, belief creeps in when we don't think. When you said that what you could have possibly learned in college was wrong, you were thinking at that point. And that was, I commend you for that, because a lot of people won't say that. So it's saying, okay, now we know for sure what you learned was wrong. So it's not saying you learned what was wrong without proof. You said, no,
you still haven't refuted what I've learned in college. What I've learned in college is that when we say agnostic, we're saying agnosis, without knowledge. That's the same thing you just said, that the root goes back to without knowledge.
No, but you said, no, you were saying that it means different things. And I said, no, it means this. When you try to say it means different things. So that's what you said earlier.
No, I said it gets used for different ways these days.
You
but
said
the way it was used, right? The
all
way
right,
it was used.
maybe you misspoke. If you rewind it, you did say there's different meanings. You said that, and I said no, there's
I
not
said
different.
modern, yeah, modern usage
No,
is
no,
for all kinds of things. So in modern
that is not
parlance, people
correct.
say in
That is
modern
not
parlance,
correct.
people say I'm agnostic about whether the universe was eternal or not.
No,
Right?
well,
That has
no,
nothing to do with the God claim. But where the etymology of the word goes back to was the claim that it
you
cannot
said
be
it
known.
went back to ancient Greece, which was incorrect. You said it
That
meant
something cannot be known. It isn't that
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
know.
you
It's that
said
it
a God.
cannot
No,
be
no,
known.
you rooted it back to a God, a no belief in a
Yes,
God.
yes,
A
yes.
Greek.
So,
Now
so
it
when we
goes.
relate it, right?
I
So when
just look.
to
I didn't
myself,
prove it.
to
Look,
myself. So when I say, I
no,
said to
no, but
myself.
I
So,
didn't. I
so
didn't
when
prove
I
it.
say I'm
I did.
I said to myself, brother. So I said, when I say that I'm agnostic, I'm talking about a specific proposition. I'm agnostic. I don't think it's possible to know whether
Okay.
or not a God
So,
exists. So that's when I
okay.
say I'm agnostic. That's how I'm using, because you remember,
Okay.
language is fluid,
And this
right?
is where
So
I was
it's
saying, if we don't clarify this, we'll always be confused. So the way you're using it is incorrect if you're saying that, hey, I'm agnostic, but I believe in evolution. I'm agnostic. I only believe in that there's no God, but you're believing, again, you go back to belief. Science isn't based in belief, believing evolution when we don't know. You see, and the more we search
language is
evolution,
fluid. Language
huh?
is fluid. Language is fluid. There is no delineation. The only delineation for language is is considered like a dictionary. So we could
No,
both say, well, what does a dictionary say? That's
well,
a delineation. But
no.
otherwise,
You have to
language
realize
is
if the dictionary, if somebody would have changed what's in the dictionary, how would we figure out what's right? We would figure out it in this way. In the older dictionaries, there used to be black and white, and anything with black was associated with bad. Anything with white was associated with good. So now, when we saw that in a dictionary in the late 70s and the 80s, kids researched it. Teachers were like, listen, this is wrong. Why? Because we can see that there are things that are white that are not good. White sugar, white salt, white flour. And we can see that there's things that are black that are good. The darkness of sleep. There's certain darknesses in nature. There's certain things that the darker they are, the better. If they're light, they're immature. They're not ripe. So by defining it in reality, we saw that what the dictionary was telling us is wrong. This is how dictionaries are built correctly. Because I'm a writer.
yeah.
I've
But what I'm saying
written.
is that language is invented. We made it up.
How do you
We
know? You don't know
we
that.
created it
No, you
because
don't.
because you just talked about yourself, about the history. I said, what
Yeah,
is the etymology? And you
what
gave
did
me
I
this
say?
Proto-European.
And what did
Right?
I say when I said that? I said we know that it has to go back further than that, but for sake of argument, we'll leave it at Proto-Indo-European. That's exactly what I said. So
Sure.
when you again the
So where did it
evolution,
come from before that?
this is the agnostic. We don't know, and that's
So
the
how do you know
truth.
it wasn't invented? Because we
Well,
invent language all the time.
how do we know it was? You see, so you
Because
give
we do it all the time. We invent language all the time.
no, but that does not mean that we invented it. You see what I'm saying? We modify language. We don't invent it. We modify.
We still invent language.
We
There's different.
modify it. No, what we do is we modify, we speak with spoken language. And then we say, okay, we can modify this into different types of spoken language, but we still don't know where spoken language comes from. And then when we look into the genes, now it gets very interesting because there's a gene that seems to be flipped on that's totally unnatural, that totally dispels
So
evolution.
are you saying, just really quick, because I am on a long time, are you saying that language itself is metaphysical?
No, I'm not saying it's metaphysical. I'm saying
So then somebody invented, or something invented.
Something or someone. And this is shown in the genes that the
Okay, so it's
language.
invented. Yeah. And we still do it today. Like we come up with slang.
But we
So we
don't
call it
know.
modify.
We don't know
If you want to call it
how.
modify,
We modify what's
infers that there
existing
was-
already, though.
Exactly. Mr. X hit it. We modify what's already existing.
Sure. So it was either invented or it was metaphysical.
Well, no, not metaphysical, because that would be unscientific. It could be. There's no evidence that we're seeing it's metaphysical, but there is evidence that we're seeing it did not just develop by chance. That
Yeah,
it's
no.
implanted.
Well, nobody said anything about chance.
I
Nobody said.
could
I didn't say anything about chance. I just said, is language invented? Do we create language?
We don't know. If it really doesn't seem like we created it, because when you look at the genome now, I would have to look in my files, but for the architects of humanity, there's genes that's one of the mysteries of humanity. The fact that that gene is turned on, just the way the blue-eye gene is turned on somehow. This is not by chance. This is not recessive. So when we look into other parts, we say, okay, these genes are turned on. Other animals that we thought, with our own arrogance and ignorance, we thought that they couldn't speak, and they proved us wrong by speaking. We see this with crows. We see this with parrots. We see this with other mammals too. And even animals that we would never even dream of this happening. So it goes against the logic of what we know, like the bumblebee and the dragonfly. According to physics in the 30s and 20s, a helicopter wouldn't be able to fly, according to their knowledge of physics. As people said, well, wait a minute, according to this, the bumblebee can't fly, but it does fly. So the Western physics had to catch up to it. This is the same thing what I'm saying about this. You're catching up to something that's already there by existing. The language already exists, and they're trying to say, well, according to my belief, it was humans invented this. And it's like, we don't even know how humans came to be. And when you look at language is extremely complex, and there's different languages. That's the craziest thing. There's no possible way in mathematics that's a probability.
That's my cue. I've been writing this the whole time. You said languages. Can you read this for me, MD?
What do you want me to read? Languages can only describe something, but symbols can demonstrate the truth by using sacred geometry that goes beyond the physical. There is a truth in that, man. There is definitely the
ancient symbols
symbols like in a computer. This is where they say hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs still haven't been fully deciphered. Champollion himself, he said, we don't know what this is. You look at Chinese characters, you look at Japanese characters. Rongo from the Polynesian islands still hasn't been deciphered. The fact that they burn those wooden tablets that it was written on show that they're trying to hide the true history of humanity. So it's not really a search for the truth. It's saying anything that's found that goes against evolution, we're going to discredit it, destroy it, or hide it. And we see that happening. So if I were just to say that, and we say, well, where's the proof? Well, we see the fakes on the skeletons. We see the hiding of certain selling of artifacts of mummies and stuff. And we see the militarization of sites. We see the destruction of archaeological sites through war. And that is knowledge to say, wait a second, what are you doing bombing that thing? That's going to tell us more about the past. Military's there. We see this happen all the time. And then a cognitive dissonance that is within us will say, well, no, well, this is the best we have, evolution. We're going to believe it. Now, if it were scientific, I would say, yay, hey, man, the science is there. But every time I look deeper, I'm saying, wait, somebody purposely lied. This is not scientific. And now they're pushing it in the schools and they're writing textbooks about it. That's why I tell people, if you want to, you have to build a better model to change something. You can't just outright fight it. This is why I write books. I do research. I do these streams to show people that, okay, we're told that dating on strata, which seems logical, will say that the top layers are older than the bottom layers. Now we see that it's not by millions of years. It's not even by thousands of years. This was by months in the beginning of and this is 400 feet deep on some areas. So you're looking at not no little deposits. When you compare this, which is empirical science, to the Grand Canyon, you start to say, yes, this gives a signature of the Grand Canyon not happening over a slow time. So what was taught must be changed in the history books, and it's not changed. They're fighting the science of it. They didn't want to change Piltdown Man for.
But isn't it the rate of compression? Like you can, they claim that
in the first month in May, it formed a layer that you see the little.
You're saying that sediment that built up over these 2 years.
These are.
So these are very soft layers.
These are landslides, airfall of tephra, pyroclastic flows, and mud flows all together. The bottom layer that's about 20 feet high, May 18th, 1980. The layer with the strata above that, June. 1 month, less than 1 month later, all of that formed. Within the next less than 2 years, the darker layer on top formed with ash that was
You see
falling
what's interesting on the
over.
right in the middle where it says June 12, 1980, that seems to have the most compression because it's in the
Yeah,
middle,
that
I
has
guess.
a dark band. And what happened in that area was more soot fell down during those days. So not years, not millions of years, just within those days. They would say, oh, that's the KT layer that proved the comet hit. And look, the darkness goes all the way across. So there's many scientists that left the field of evolution after the Mount St. Helens. The sad thing is some of them went and became religious, but a lot of them knew that, wait a minute, this whole Grand Canyon thing doesn't make sense anymore. So this is where the real science is. That this is why I do the channel, to say, look, I want to know myself. When I see trees going straight through strata, and I say, well, wait a minute, that only happens today during mudslides, during floods. If something floods a larger coastal area, you'll see it solidified with trees in it.
Yeah, so
But
that's petrified right there,
this is
literally. So
petrified. Now you have
that,
some
you know,
with the roots underneath. Now you can see a root jutting out on the left
yeah, I can
side.
see the root right there sticking
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Now they're going to say, well, the roots, this tree was growing. There are fossils with the tree upside down. So instead of, and this is the mental cognitive dissonance in the believers of evolution, that they will say, and there's nothing, I can understand why they believe it. They would say, well, instead of saying, well, yeah, that fossils, this is odd, they'll say, no, they'll look for something to say, no, you see the roots, that means it grew that way. So,
But isn't there like a compression rate based on the hardness factor? Like over time, it becomes
well, no,
whatever
the
eventually
compression
diameter
rate
or whatever.
is based on the liquefaction. When it's flowing liquid, the different densities separate itself into the layers, like it did here in this picture. So we see the different layers separate itself into different the density separated into different layers, and that's what causes that. It doesn't happen over massive.
I'm saying with natural compression, let's say we add another 500 years to that picture. Hold on, put the picture again. So if
The
we add,
Mount St. Helens. Oh, okay. Now, and this is what we don't know.
yeah,
We
let's say
only-
it's 500 years. How
we,
much of that would have gone down
we
without
don't
any
know.
obstruction?
You see what I'm saying? We don't have.
Well, you
What
should be
we
able to
do
test
have
that.
is 30 years. So from this date, we got 40 years. 45 years has passed since 1980, right? 46 years. So we have 46 years, say 50 years of data to say, okay, when it compresses, it will have this type of look. Not necessarily this picture, but we would need pictures in 50 years. Spirit Lake was the lake nearby this. The trees that got thrown into Spirit Lake started forming what looks to be a very, very, very low rank of coal. So we're seeing White Heat just put in, look at the petrified forest. The modern scientific archaeological explanation falls flat on its head. Thank you, White Heat. The unnatural rock formations, the superstitions, verifies Max's assertions. Yeah, and these are just the evidence that I'm presenting, because I care about my brother objective ethics. I care about all my brothers. I mean, this is the search for truth. This is the love, the self-respect that I have for myself and others with objective. He clearly puts that in a great way. So searching for this truth is not saying that it's a debate. I'm presenting an argument. I'm presenting evidence to show, like, look, brother, we're not looking at this in the correct scientific way. And if we don't correct ourselves as we move forward, saying that, okay, agnostic means we don't know. We don't know if there's a God or if there isn't. We don't know how life formed.
Okay,
We don't know.
okay. Based on off that, let me just ask one question. And I think this question has always been ignored throughout the entire thing, especially evolution. What can we explain the evolution of consciousness? Because if you want to compare it to a chimp, all of a sudden having consciousness of a human, let's dissect that. So if there is no correlation there and there's no evidence of any of that, that would lead back to us being original, as in we never knew what non-existent means. We don't know what that means because we've always existed in some form. There's no evidence at all of evolution of consciousness, right? That we got smarter, a little bit smarter. Okay, now we're sticks, hitting with sticks. Now all of a sudden we're making metal. Now all of a sudden, there was none of that. It just happened within an 80-year span. Just out of nowhere. Now with AI, and all of a sudden. So, can you explain the evolution of consciousness, if there is even any evidence of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's muted, but if he wants to jump in at any time, that's something that not even the evolution of consciousness itself, they can't
I
explain.
do have to jump off to work on this debate while I'll just be in the back listening to you guys.
Yeah, hey,
Thank you for
coming on.
letting me up, you guys. If you want to discuss objective morality sometime exclusively, and not all the rabbit hole stuff, I'm definitely down to do it though.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your debate as objective on Sunday. Looking forward to it.
Saturday, yeah, it'll be a really good
Oh,
one. It'll
Saturday.
be objective morality versus biblical morality.
What time? What time will it be on?
And that is going to be 5 p.m. I'm on the West Coast, so that's 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, perfect.
And that'll be
And
Sunday,
that'll be on
right?
Robin.
Sunday?
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Okay.
Yeah, it's
so
not. It's, I'm not doing it on my. Yeah, I'm not doing it on my channel. I'm still doing my normal stream on Sundays, but this is going to be on Robin Webster's channel. She's a. You can always grab a link to her channel from any of my videos.
Yeah, I've seen her.
Robin. Yeah, it'll be on her. She's hosting and moderating it, and then the Christian I'll be debating against he's all over the place. So you guys, I don't know if you guys will know him, but he's on a lot of people's channels. He kind of trolls around.
Who's
Jill, we call him Jill. He calls himself Rebuke and Reprove. Yeah. You actually got into it a little bit with him, I think, on my not like in a disrespectful way or anything, but you kind of had a back and forth. Yeah.
No, he definitely. I wanted to interview Taurus Necros Productions. I think he's a Catholic, right?
Yeah. Nathaniel, he's the guy who wants to debate me on the flood myth.
Yeah, he came on the stream, but only for like 5 or 10 minutes. Like
onto your channel?
Yeah, he came over here. Like when I think when I spoke to maybe it was before I spoke to Jill. He was on your panel, and then he came over like a few days later, said what's up, maybe stayed 5 or 10 minutes. He had to go, and then we were gonna set something up, but I haven't seen him since. He left like one comment maybe earlier this month. And,
I do love that, the networking thing. I mean, I bring a lot of people together with different ideas, and there's a lot of people who disagree with each other and stuff. But when I see people popping up on other, like we all met through each other kind of thing, it's just really neat to see how we're making the world so much smaller every time we do this. It's so cool.
Great. I think it's great. It's good that people can share knowledge. This is where the learning happens, to say, look, I want to connect. Like, and I think I didn't know that you were affiliated with Gnosis and them. And I don't go on his channel really anymore. Cougar Doomer, I think, came on this channel. Like after I was talking with him on Gnosis, he was like, I promoted his channel a little because he again got into it with me with the evolution. And I'm like, look.
Yeah,
because he's like a 60-something-year-old, like staunch scientist. But I have the recording where him and Gnosis were going at me, and it took 30 minutes, and they would not answer the question when I said, listen, just tell me what type of bacteria that you're claiming turned into another type of bacteria. I said, what is the name of the bacteria? Man, it was hilarious. They were saying all types of stuff for 20 minutes. And then after about 25 minutes, I was like, look, I got to go. You still didn't name the bacteria and how it changed into another type. Soon as I hopped off, he typed it in and got it. And it was a streptococcus that was not lethal, that picked up a lethal trait from another streptococcus. And that was their so-called proof of life changing into other forms. And I said, look at that. I said, this is why I recorded it. And I taped it in like maybe 4 little segments of like 15 minutes to where it showed that, okay, I went on there. These guys attacked me saying that evolution was true. I said, okay, give me a proof of it. They said this bacteria. I said, okay, what's the name of the bacteria? They couldn't produce the name for 20 minutes. When I left, their ego allowed them to type it in. Then Gnosis, so D&W started to say, oh, well, if we did this, it could prove evolution, proving to me that he's not really an agnostic. He's actually an atheist posing as an agnostic. And a lot of these guys will do that. And that's when I said, wait a minute, this whole thing with agnosticism needs to be blown out in the open to say, this is what it means. This is what it would always mean. And if anybody changes that definition, we need to owe it to respect ourselves enough to change it back to say no and teach people, like terrorism. terrorism.
Well, I don't know. The whole thing about the so language, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, I know, but language is the purpose of it is so that we can communicate, right? You must agree. We must agree.
Why there's so many different languages?
Wait,
Look at
hold
Europe.
up. Or deceive each other. So we communicate. That's the
Well,
basic
that's fine,
thing.
but deception is a type of communication.
Exactly. I was just about to say
Okay,
that. So
yeah.
you're right.
So we
Communication.
use
Now,
language. So if you and I want to have a productive conversation, right? It doesn't matter what words we use. All that matters for a productive conversation is that you and I understand what the other person is saying, right?
Or if it's productive, it could be productive in a way where one wants to manipulate the other. Say maybe into buying a product. Say maybe into their religion.
Well, let's say intellectually. Okay, if we want to have an intellectually honest conversation, right? All that matters is that you and I both understand what the other person's saying.
Understand one, but also checking each other to make sure that we stay straight on coming from the honest position of starting where we're at. We don't know, to say, okay, we don't know.
Well, none of that. No, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. The intellectually honest conversation is we just want to communicate about anything. So let's say I want to communicate about my car. I want to tell you about my car. We have to agree on what a car is. If I'm talking about a bicycle and you're talking about an airplane and neither one of us is talking about a car, that conversation is going to be completely unproductive, right? There's no way
we create so many different languages. Look at Europe. Why do we create so many different languages?
I think people come from different points of view. People come from different parts of the country. They have, I don't really know, the biology behind it,
But you look at Europe, so close to each other, but extremely different languages. I mean, they're all part of Western languages.
That is wild. I mean, if you think of even Latin and Greek, right? Chinese, Japanese. I mean, yeah, it's really wild.
That's a part of creation.
A part of language, I think, is to conceal as well.
Yeah, that's what Mr. X, or I mean, MD was saying. Yeah, absolutely. Language could be used for deception. It could be used for expressing love or emotion or whatever. But the point I'm trying to say is,
it doesn't need to be like communication specifically.
No. What he's saying is, what he said was communication. He was correct. It's a broad category, but within communication, there's deception, there's honest conversation, there's manipulative, there's coercion. But so he's saying if we have an intellectually honest conversation, that's the way we can go forward. Honestly, we can say, all right.
But you can only describe. You can only describe. You can't be truthful. The symbol shows the truth. Shows a symbol,
like
a testicle. You can make a symbol for that, like how it works, energetically, physically.
I think it's true that
words can only describe.
It should be like, okay, it's the meaning that matters, but context definitely is a part of that. I would have to say, and I think if we're talking about intellectually honest, I think it is good to have like the root word of things and know where the meaning or like the word comes from.
What about Eastern languages? They have a totally different system than we do.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, when it comes to knowing all, it's good to not exclude any one person's. I don't want to say one person's. I want to say one culture's perspective, because I think culture. That's a different thing than just one person's perspective on what a word should mean. Like there's a whole historical backing behind that and like conversation.
All I'm saying is, it seems like language was created by something outside of the human mind. That means more realistic to me, based on my beliefs, of course. I can't prove it scientifically.
Well, I was going to ask you about that just really quick before I go, and you guys could talk about it maybe when another stream or something. But I am really curious. Two things. Scribe mentioned something about conscious being essentially fundamental, and that was kind of interesting. I was just curious if Scribe was a non-dualist or a panpsychist or something like that, or if you've looked into those things by chance, or what your views are on those, because that kind of perked my ears up.
At this point, I don't even know, because I'm just like, these new things are coming up as we go through these streams, basically. So before the stream, I wasn't even thinking about the evolution of the consciousness, or how does that relate to evolution, or anything else that they claim that they're talking about, because they can show you in a lab something physically, but they're not explaining, okay, so how did we come from something that lives like a chimp to all of a sudden conquer the world and go, that whole thing. And then there's also the issue with all the indigenous tribes who've been here. Then all of a sudden something came in Avatar style and just took over and said, we're going to break the balance because, you know, the indigenous tribes keep the balance with the earth, the plants, the animals. They have a connection with that we've obviously broken. And this thing came in, what do you want to call it? The Garden of Eden, and bit the apple, whatever. This thing came in to say, we're going to buy property. Like, and then the chief's like, what do you mean buy property? He's like, yeah, we're going to buy the, you know, this whole, like, how you, and then the chief's like, scratching and says, like, so you're going to buy the sky, the air, the water. It's like, does that even equate to what this thing called money? I mean, I don't even know what money is, first of all. Oh, it's a credit system, you know. I'll give you this piece of paper and I'll pretend I owe you something, you know. Just the fakeness of it all, and going in and destroying rivers, unbalancing the whole earth, unearthing, you know, Amazon, all these, you know, mystical places that are being destroyed through, you know, in the name of creating money and wealth and all these things.
In the name of progress.
It went completely against morality of respecting the world, who you are.
Yeah, I agree. That's
nature, right?
It's tripartite: respect for the environment, respect for others, and respect for yourself. It's self-respect. That's the key. And Mr. X, you mentioned that you're a believer of some kind, but I never did quite pick up. And I'm not here to judge. I'm just curious.
I believe in. Well, I'm not. I wouldn't say religious because I'm not a participant in any organized religion, but I do believe in a higher power, and I have my certain religious belief. But I don't push it on anybody. I'm not here to like say this is how it is. You know, that's a separate topic, and it's not meant to be pushed onto anybody. But I do definitely believe in a higher power, a mind outside the human mind that created all of this, including language, everything. It just that points to more order and design to me, rather than just subjective reality. Mm-hmm.
All right. No, that satisfies my curiosity on both fronts. I was just curious because a couple comments were made by each of you that piqued my curiosity, and then we went on to something else, and I just wanted to ask before I left really quick. All right, you guys, I do have to get off.
Yeah, and I'm an agnostic. You know, I claim that everybody's an agnostic, even X and Scribe and all of that, just to be. And this is the beautiful thing about the panel. We all have different thoughts. Mr. X has a belief, Scribe has a different thought, I have a different thought, you have a different thought. And I rarely see this on panels where people can have a conversation. It'll always be a debate. It'll be some type of argument instead of just saying, hey, I'm presenting the evidence and we're having a great conversation like we've had many times. So hopefully, you know, that can be continued. You know, the mind always brings different, like definitely good stuff from different angles. Alexis in the chat and other guys bringing some deep stuff. White Heat, you know, he brought in the unnatural rock formation. So everybody adds in to say, hey, even though we might not have the core same thing, which is beautiful because it shows the diversity, that we're going to bring in evidence whenever we say like, hey, look, you know, like he brought in the petrified forest. I remember looking into that. And it just to say, now we're getting closer to finding the truth that, okay, does Arabic and Hebrew and Greek and Latin all come from Phoenician? Or could there even be something else? Does the Finno-Ugaric group come from Eastern Asia? So that's the pursuit to lead us to the truth. And it's beautiful that we can all have these different thoughts. And it's always a pleasure having you on, brother. Always, man.
It's just so you know, it's my thing. I've reached a point now, real quick, objective, just so you know my side, because I said I'm not sure. At this point, I would say we are gods of our own creation, and we're being shackled right now in this vessel. You want to what we call a body, and want to experience pain and all this other stuff. But at the same time, it's like a battle between the physical body and the soul, the spirit, the energy force, whatever you want to call it. But I've gone completely to the side of saying if there is no evidence of any type of God or anything like that, then we are what we think it is, and it's been personified as what we call God, Jesus, always him, he, all these, you know, references to a man. So if that's God, he's a man. So that means he's separated like we are too, like we need a woman. So all these, you know, issues with that, and there's no evidence of any of that. And if there are all these gods, why don't we see them battling? Why don't we only see us battling? I only see us paying for these wars and doing all that stuff, right? So when you look at the realism in front of you, this could be no more than simply a simulation that allows for different types of people of consciousness that come here, whether we're good or evil, depending on, you know, I would say it's more subjective than objective. I mean, there's truth, certain truths you can stand by, but any truth can can be broken. You know, when you said sustenance to eat, there's guys apparently in India and China that haven't eaten their whole lives, or they're like over 100 years old or something, and they're doing some weird, crazy meditation, monks, whatever, doing that for who knows how long, how many years, or breathing underwater. There could be somebody that, you know, might have developed that, who knows, whatever, but it could defy what we call truth. And there's been people do things that we don't even, you know, that's not even considered human, or telepathy, or like when you think of language being descriptive, whereas telepathy is images that you instantly just know. Like when Neo's sitting there, he's like, you know, 10 seconds, all of a sudden he's an expert, you know, in flying a helicopter or martial arts. It was because he wasn't limited to words. He saw the images and everything, the whole thing just came in almost instantly. The understanding, and I believe the words is almost like keeping us back, keeping us stupid, keeping us to a point where we can only be descriptive and manipulative by using words and terms that don't really mean what they mean, and then they have double meanings, and then the interpretation factor, especially when you go to court. That's why they have legalese, and they define these words because they know the words are BS in the first place. But the power is you can actually come in with your own legalese if you want to go create your own language and all that. But that's going way beyond. But I'm just saying the example there, the language doesn't really hold much water, versus like a symbol, I think holds much more truth to that, because we've seen symbolism, ancient symbolism, that mean more than, you know, how they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think symbols are worth infinite words depending on the symbol. That could mean free energy, it can mean something else, whatever. But words can only describe so much to a certain point.
Well, depending on the
that's our
perspective, I
limitation.
think, because if you perceive the symbol to mean a different thing, then it means a different thing.
Yeah,
Not
but
really this. I don't think you can, well, you could
like,
you can
if you think of the
misinterpret
symbol,
it.
yeah, I think if you think of the symbol, like, 'cause I actually believe I would be considered. I don't like labels because they just add a lot of confusion. Even this whole like this conversation about agnostics just added more confusion to the conversation than it did anything productive, because we're coming at it from different angles. But I do think that, and I think language is susceptible to that. But I think that I could be defined as a metaphysical naturalist. So I believe in the natural world. I don't think there's anything that supernatural actually exists, just by definition alone. If nothing else, it just doesn't
What
make
about the
sense.
consciousness? So the consciousness you're saying is a physical thing, or
I'm not a physicalist. I'm a naturalist. So I think
okay,
everything that
so
exists is natural. I don't think so. If there is something that we find later that we might define as a super powerful being that people might call God, I think it would be something natural. I don't think it would be a supernatural. Like there's a supernatural thing that exists outside the natural world. I don't believe in that. But I do
okay,
believe in metaphysics.
how
I
about
believe that
consciousness? So what do you think consciousness is?
Or the
I have
prime
no
mover.
idea about consciousness. I really don't know, but I do think that mathematics and the laws of logic are metaphysical, necessarily a priori.
All right, so
So they're
is
metaphysical.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
so I
You
think they
see,
are
this goes back to asking, do you know when you didn't exist? Was there a time you know you didn't exist? Do you know what it feels like?
No, I don't. I don't think
What
you get
about
something.
well? What about
See, that's
infinite
the
regress?
issue. That's the problem. If you
Yeah,
can't
infinite
even,
regress actually isn't a problem, as like a lot of people think it is. There's two ways around infinite regress. First of all, if let's say time is linear, like I was trying to type this in the comment earlier, but it's a lot to say in just a little comment. But if we go with time being linear, even if we go with either A theory or B theory, infinite regress still isn't a problem depending on how you focus where you're at. So if
But
time
could
is
anything
linear,
exist if it's true? Could anything exist if infinite regression is true? Because it would take an infinite amount of time
yeah,
for us to
no,
exist.
it doesn't actually, because you don't get somewhere. That's the key. You are somewhere. If you think about getting somewhere, then you're right. It becomes impossible. But if you just are somewhere, it's no longer impossible. And you could, so if you had an endless line, right, that went off, let's just pretend you had a piece of paper in front of you, you drew a line from end to end, and you just imagine the line kept going from on both sides of that piece of paper. And you just take your
Right.
pencil and just dropped it on that line somewhere. You didn't get there, you just are there. You have an infinite line, and you can visualize it, sort of imagine it, but you still see where you can put your pencil on this dot on this, because you can put that pencil dot anywhere as long as you're there to put the pencil dot. So you are there. And I think that's why B theory makes the most sense. It's easier to understand, but time could also be infinite and in a circle. So it's a time loop that you just keep, and then you could get somewhere.
How about going forward in a circle? Because as Varun had a good point, he said it just doesn't make sense for time to go in a straight line. So if it went forward in spirals, then that could tell us, okay, it's moving in a way that we don't understand. Coincidence might actually be able to be explained, and synchronicities in a logical way. Also, my theory of, we know for sure the present creates the past. Where is the present coming from? Is there a future that's spiraling back into this present moment? And then our present moment, we know for sure, is spiraling back into the past. So Dean Radin is doing mental experiments of, can we mentally reach back into the past, and can we see forward into the future with a type of premonition? Dr. Larry Dossey wrote a book that I have called The Science of Premonitions, where he was showing in many instances people were supposed to be at a certain place and they didn't go, and there was a catastrophe at that place, a church, a school, and other places like that. And they say, well, everybody met up at 7:30, but this night 2 people overslept, this person had to work, different things happen. And they're saying, how does this actually, it totally changes, if we look at it scientifically, our perspective.
Well, it works. That all works with the B theory of time, which is why I believe in the B theory of time. The
But
past,
isn't it kind of
present, future.
supernatural also, because we just appeared? That's
No,
supernatural.
I don't know. Appear no. So even whether it's A theory or B theory, both work with the theory of the law of entropy and the theory of evolution. Both work in the A theory or B theory of time. I know you guys don't accept evolution, but the neither one of those evolving. So
it's not
changing
that we don't
states.
accept it.
So changing states. Let's call it evolution. Let's say changing states, because that's really what we're. So you see, even with entropy, like the law of entropy, right, in thermodynamics, right. So the law of entropy that still works with A,
right?
What's
Evolution goes against the.
Well, forget the evolution thing. Forget the evolution thing. I knew I shouldn't have said that. Let's think of entropy.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying, if you look at it scientifically, it defies the second law of thermodynamics too. So when we're basing time on that, again, we're basing on something that's already not correct. So how correct is the B theory? Which it could be, where it's past, present, future equally real, but the fact that we know the present is creating the past shows the B theory not to fully be understanding what time is. It could actually be where.
But look, I see it as an interpretation, or what your perception of time would be at that point, because if you want to look at this as a simulation, the light, the fastest thing, whatever physical fastest thing, is called light, as in light. It's not heavy. That's funny. It's a contradiction. But light itself, they claim it's this fast. So meaning the light is this fast, it means that's the FPS in a video game. They have 30 frames a second, 60 frames a second, 120 frames a second, liquid smooth. But this life you're seeing is way faster than that, the speed of light. So you're seeing at the speed of light. Your FPS level is at that perspective. So you're dealing with a very high, super maxed out FPS experience. And you do see glitches here and there. That's what the Matrix movie is trying to show with the deja vu, the dreams and stuff like that, where you can perceive things that happen in your dream or whatever, or remote view or something, or do something that you can have these visions. But I see it as the eternal now. So the game is running at 60 frames a second on your computer, but you here are running at the speed of light. Insane frames per second. So that's your essence. You're based off that particular server or computer that's running the simulation is running at that speed to give it, just an understanding of how advanced this simulation is versus what we call a simulation when we build a game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But time dilation.
We're getting to the point. How's that?
There's time dilation, right? So like if you're sitting on the edge of a black hole, you're basically like not advancing in time. But if you're sitting on Earth, millions of years will go by, right?
That's unprovable.
I don't believe any of that. That's straight up
beautiful.
Well, we could prove time dilation. We could prove time dilation.
The issue is we had
clocks and trains. That's how they did it. That's
how do we prove it? How do we prove time?
By running clock. How Einstein did it, by just grabbing a watch and running on a train.
Okay,
climbing a mountain. Climbing a mountain.
The same guy who got the ether,
okay, now, but now that's proving a very small amount of something that's explained in that way. If we analyze it further, we start to see that might not be a correct assumption. with the time dilation. The black hole theory, right? That also brings up a red flag to say, well, wait a second, why would they start to speculate on something that we can't check to try to push this theory of time dilation? Like the B theorists, right? They, they're saying, no, objects do change, right? Properties, all of that stuff, but they deny that time itself flows or passes. Now we can challenge that. We can say, you know what, that's a very interesting prospect that they're saying it's like a block of time, the fourth dimensional structure, a 4D structure of a block of time, which all events from the Big Bang to the far future exist permanently, right? So it's saying, well, we are seeing that we're flowing through. So the fact that they deny the fact that time itself flows or passes, but we do see that. We see it flowing and passes, and we see time affecting us differently in different states of mind.
Okay.
We see
Can I
time.
interject real quick? Can I interject on that real quick? You're talking about time specifically in this realm, as you see degradation, all these things. Actually, Alex Jones had a funny thing where he started crying, alive, on his podcast, where he said there was a dream he had, one dream, where he literally went through his whole entire life, and he had to bury his kids because of a tyrannical government, but it happened like in 1657 or something way back when. And he literally felt that he lived an entire lifetime throughout this one dream. I haven't heard dreams that do that, but where's the time dilation, all these things when it comes to you having a dream, or how much of a dream you had? Because I've had short dreams, long dreams, and I don't know if the time itself on this physical world correlated with how much time I was dealing on that side, or whatever that is. So how do you associate time when it comes to dreaming, or you're not in this particular realm?
Who was that to? That was.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
I
saying,
have to work on this
you hear the
debate,
question?
guys.
no,
getting way
definitely.
off
Hey,
track.
if you get a chance, we will do the objective ethics and morality, and we'll stick to the subject whenever you're free again, if you want. I sent
Always
you I sent you an
Always an interesting
invite.
conversation.
Yeah, on the last stream we did, I sent an invite to where if you accept it, I don't know if you got the email. I responded to one of the emails that you wrote, that it'll show up the conversation we had on your channel. So that's the way YouTube shares it now, I think. So because it was saying in the guidelines, I guess, why it can't be shared like the way we used to. I don't know if it's the StreamYard or whatever, but it was saying, like, on the bottom of my channel, I did an interview with You Gotta Laugh podcast. It shows up on the bottom because he sent me an invite, a collaboration invite. So if you accept the invite, now the stream we did with the interview of you will show up on your channel. So if you do the stream for objective morality, we can share it that way too, if the other thing doesn't work. So it's
No, the only reason I didn't do that, well, there's two things actually. One thing I did discover, because I said I was going to look into it, and I think I forgot to tell you, I actually did do a quick experiment. This is a bit of an assumption actually, but I'm pretty sure it is the way it is. If two people have a paid subscription, you can dual stream, because I think that was one of the things we wanted to dual stream it. Wasn't that you? I was talking. We were gonna, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I tried that with Gnosis, Finding Gnosis. We were just talking about him, DNW. He has a paid subscription, and I have a paid subscription. So I went onto his panel to check, because I thought I had done it before with him, and it does work. I have another friend of mine that I know does not have a paid subscription, and just like it will not let me do it. So that was what was the hanging up. As far as linking that one video, the reason I didn't do that is because I went back and watched it, and the title says objective versus subjective morality, but we were talked for I can't remember now, 2.5 hours or so. It was a great conversation. We talked for a long time, but we only talked about morality for 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something like that. Most of it was evolution and aliens, and I can't remember archaeology and all so much stuff that was so disjointed that it's no, this isn't really. It's going to be if somebody clicks on this and is like, oh, I want to watch this conversation about morality, and then an hour and a half into it, and they're like, are these guys ever going to get to morality? Kind of like it went tonight. It's just too many rabbit holes. It was too dysfunctional. Fun conversation to have, but just too dysfunctional. Nothing really got figured out or solved. So I was like, no, I'll wait for a more when we actually do it a really good stream, either on your channel, my channel, something like that, and then keeps focused on the topic. Sure. I would be much more interested in linking something like that. But so we have plenty of time in the future to set something up.
Yeah, if you want, I can come over there, because we did it here, or if you want, whichever one fits you better. Me coming there, you coming here, just let me know. And
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. I don't know what's going on. I'm hesitant to say anything because I haven't made any decisions yet. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to reach out to people and communicate about things that are important to me, about the self-respect concept, how to live a better life.
Mhm.
And I can see it starting to have a positive impact because people are starting to do response videos and reaction videos. You did a video of your own on the whole, you know what I mean? So I feel
Mhm.
really good about that.
Mhm.
But ever since I took this promotion at work, which has uh, been about 2, 3 months now, I don't even know. I'm starting to lose track of time. But when I first started my channel, I think beginning of December, I was planning on doing like at least two like shows or streams or something a week, possibly a little short or something, 2 or 3. And then like a couple months later, like January, February sometime, somewhere in there around February, I think it was March, maybe. I don't know when it was. I took a promotion at work that I didn't want. I'm just doing like the owner is solid, and
Mhm.
my work schedule is so insane that I don't even have barely time to do my Sunday stream. Fuck the 2 or 3 shows I was doing. So the channel, I don't know. It's become
Wow. But are you
because
getting paid
also
more?
I don't have time to spend with my wife, and that's
It,
what's
it,
really starting to bother me. Is like my weekend is so soaked up just trying to get caught up on like family stuff,
mhm.
and then I have just bullshit that I have to deal with last minute. Like last night, I had some asshole wouldn't would was giving one of my employees a hard time, wouldn't leave, and so instead of calling the cops, he called me because I live right around the corner. So I have to just deal with stupid stuff. You know what I mean? Like randomly. Just my schedule is so messed up that I'm
Are you at least
tempted.
are they at least compensating you monetarily for taking this
I
promotion?
am
Or
I am making good money, but I don't need.
okay,
I mean, he's nice, but I don't need the money. I'm not doing it for
yeah.
the money at all.
Well, they say
Yeah, they are paying me.
well they say how something costs too much is if it costs your peace of mind. So it's
That's
like
what's happening. He's taking
yeah,
too much
and
out
I
of my
hear
personal life.
brother,
And
I hear
so I
you.
might cut back to just doing 2 streams a month instead of
Yeah,
one every Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet. And I haven't said that to, you're the first person I've even mentioned it to. I talked to my wife about it, but she's like, you should, because it's turning into this even once a week. Like you're on, like every time I come home, it seems like you're doing a stream. And I
yeah, I
have a
try
bunch
to
of
do
friends
it
of mine
every
that have
night.
channels.
Every night. I
They're
told
always
Tribe
doing it.
today.
I don't know how
Yeah.
you guys have the energy for it. Like, because I
Well, you know
put so
what
much
it
into it.
is? I push myself. Like I actually had to take a nap when I got home today, and I overslept. And I was just, my body needed it. I spoke with Scribe earlier, and I said, I'm trying to stream every night. And when I started this stream at 11:57 tonight, because I was just like, you know what? I said, let me just make a cup of coffee. I put it for 11:55. By the time I got ready, it was 2 minutes over. As long as I start before midnight, it's grueling. But I mean, I've been doing radio since like 2010 was my first interview, and on Blog Talk Radio. But it's like I have to do this. Maybe it could be said it's a form of therapy, but my search for truth and my search for, like Mr. X is seeing, like, look, it's making a change. We're learning. So even if, like, when I started today, one person was watching, and I'm like, well, I'm really doing this for me. It's like writing the books. They say, would I continue to write if nobody read it? Yes, because a lot of this stuff I have to get out there, and maybe somebody will never read it. I know in 20,000 years, I doubt it's going to be around. So it gets me to see, when I think of these concepts, what am I really doing? Where I know I'm going somewhere. I don't know where it is. I don't know when I'm going to go. But the most I can do is like what Iris Murdoch said: the great task in life is to find reality. And the streams every night, yes, they can be very hard. It was hard starting off this stream tonight. X came on. It was just basically him and I, one person watching. And then it was like, you know what? It got better. Scribe came on. You came on. The Mind came on. So it's like, it is hard, especially with the daily stuff. But I hear what you're saying. Like, what I feel is, I think the streams you do help people, but they are also a type of personal therapy too. It's something that you enjoy doing. You enjoy helping people. You enjoy respecting yourself. And I think your streams matter a lot. So hopefully you can do more than 2 a month, but I totally understand that I mean, yeah, if you're close and the guy could have called the cops and he calls you, it's like having someone like, man, give me a little bit of a break, you know?
Do you mind add if I could add a little thing to what you said about being a writer and like how it's kind of a little therapeutic?
Mhm.
As me as a writer, I have thought about that too, where I look back on my work at the stuff I've written, and I'm kind of like, man, who is that guy? Like, I don't even recognize that thought of state of mind that I was in, and hearing those words, it sounds like a whole nother person, and it is good to write your thoughts down because you will be in a certain state of mind that you'll definitely not realize that you're in, and then you look back on your your way of thinking and you're like, okay, that was I was onto something there and I don't know where that went.
Well, that's the thing. They have a saying, sometimes only paper will listen. Sometimes only, like the stream. When this guy used to do a stream, he was like, man, this is therapy, man, to himself. Me, I don't look at it as much as therapy, but I think it might actually be, even though I don't know it is. When sometimes we come and we talk, like how you were saying, the fact that you notice that I'm on almost every night, that's a good thing to me. It makes me feel like, wow, I'm actually, you're noticing, like people are saying, like Scribe knows, it's like I do the 7-Eleven theory. You never have to ask when 7-Eleven is open. It's always open, you know? So it's like, I don't have to ask if MD or Maxed Out is streaming tonight. He streams every night. And part of me said that maybe that's diluting my worth, but something about me says, well, you know, now that Scribe paid for this month for the StreamYard, I don't know if I'll have it until next month, but I'll see what happens. And it's just to say, okay, I might as well use it. I might actually even start doing a show with this lady to do on another channel. And that's the good thing about the paid subscription. You can stream as much as you want, because I would like to do this and have, you know, I would like to do radio and write books for a living and make enough money. Christopher, thank you, brother. He says, you're an educator, MD. Your books have impacted my life profoundly, as do these streams. Thank you, brother. And this is another reason writing, it gives me self-satisfaction. It helps other people, which gives me a good feeling again. And the streams that people, Christopher is over the pond. He's across the pond in the UK. So a lot of pandemic is in Germany. As Varun is in India, Master Yoda's in Australia, and then we're from different time zones in the US. Some guys are in Canada, Scribes in Panama. So it's a beautiful thing when I see this worldwide network that has just come together, because it's like a lighthouse to where else can I come and have conversations, and the host is not going to throw me off for, you know, we have disagreement. I look forward to learning, to say, hey, you know what, that might be true. That's a different way of looking at it. That, you know, that is something I need to look into. And yeah, you're one of the people, bro. I hope everything works out for the best with your schedule, because I'd like to see you stream more. But I understand where you're at. I could see
it's just it's turned into an obligation, and the problem is I could see that it's actually like not just making a difference, but filling a need for some people. The channel, despite having only like 50 or 60 videos up on my channel, continues to grow. I can't believe the numbers. I thought I would hit maybe 50 subs in the lifetime of the channel, and maybe like, I don't know, a few hundred to 1,000 views in a year. And I'm like at 20,000 views in the first 5 months, 250, 260, I don't know, 270, some crazy amount of subs. I can't believe how fast it's growing. And I've got guests. I'm booked all the way out to July with people who are as guest speakers. So it's become like, fuck, I can't even, I mean, I could do whatever I want, obviously, but I'm obligated to follow through with my word as a gentleman and have some integrity. So it's like, if I've made these obligations to have these guests come on, then I know I'm already stuck on this routine to the end of July. And I'm like, God, July is like 2 months away. I can't, if I keep at this pace, like the thing that made me think about this is I'm thinking, oh, I could have Maxed Out come on and be a guest speaker, but I couldn't even book you until mid-July, end of July, which is crazy to think about. We're in May right now.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I got a class next month, a physical class with somebody, and it's a lot. I went to a writers group Wednesday night yesterday, and and that was another thing that took up 3 hours of my time, and I didn't really see a big thing with it. It seems like they were more fiction based, but yeah, it's trying to figure those hours out in the day. We all have that 24 hours, but I mean, you having a family too, so that comes first as far as, because everything, that's the basis of it. And I hear what you're saying about booking people to come on. I think the streaming every night, I don't know how long I can keep it up, because from December, I streamed for 40 days straight. I think it went into like the beginning of
Jesus
February.
Christ, dude.
Oh,
That's
man,
fucking
I
crazy.
was so, by the beginning of February, I was so spent. I had to take a break, and I saw the difference in February, because I said, okay, if I'm going to try to do this for a living, February, I didn't get paid in March, and I was like, holy smokes, from YouTube. So I'm just like, and it's not a lot, 100, $200, but you got to make 100 at least to get paid. So I'm like, all right, that I kind of felt like I betrayed myself, because I was like, man, no matter what happened, I should have just kept streaming every night. And even if it's 30 minutes, like I streamed for 45 minutes the other day, then an hour, it's like, it's a discipline saying, okay, it's here. And the scribe was saying, he goes, look, your view count went down. We used to get a lot more, 1,000 views a video, sometimes more. I have over 200 videos private on this channel, because when I had it last year and I had to go through all the stuff, they made me go through all the rules. So that's why I know so much about rules on YouTube, and they change all the time. That's why I was kind of, even though I didn't have the paid version and they couldn't stream, there's something in the rules that say, even if you have permission from somebody else, you're not allowed to upload the video. So I think to get around that, that's why they created the collaboration button. So now if they do that, they know that, okay, it's verified through them. Now, I don't know about if they have some type of detection where if you stream it, like now that I have the paid version and it streams, it should be okay. But they've put me through stuff since 2021 on this channel where videos have been taken down. I wasn't struck, but it was just saying, look, that video goes against this thing. So I'd learn more. And then the fact that the rules are subject to change. Because Scribe was telling me, look, maybe I should go seek a different type of platform. And I'm like, because of the changing rules. So the stuff that I have up now can even be subject to change. So YouTube is like, it's like
every company that sets out a TOS, it has that disclaimer that these rules are subject to change at any time. Every contract in this world that you sign anymore has that disclaimer.
Exactly. So I mean, and I love doing this. It's it helps people. I enjoy doing it too. So even if it didn't help me, I enjoy it. It's like somebody eating a junk food. It's not good for them, but they enjoy it. It's somebody doing something like exercise that helps them, but they enjoy it. So this is something that hopefully is helping me. I guess I just got natural skills being a host and going on interviews, because I've done so much speaking publicly, behind the podium, all type of stuff. And it just comes natural to me, but it can get grueling. I notice when it gets to a point to where if I don't want to do it some nights, I got to do it, but then I question myself. It's like, should I really be doing that? Like, should I be refining my content? I haven't produced a video or a short in how long, which I really need to do that. The real mode is putting a short out every day, a video out every other day, and then a live stream as well. Maybe at that thing, I could only live stream maybe 3 or 4 days a week, but every night, it's good because people know that I'm here. They know that, hey, I can come on, But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. And Scribe is like he's like, it's beautiful having him here, because he, we have the he's the co-host. He can start and stop a stream too. So like if I'm tired, if he left, he probably got a phone call. Sometimes I'll leave and then he'll stay on, talk with people, and end the stream. He used to do the streams on this channel when it was called Wisdom Radio back in 2021. So
hey Matt, do you mind if I ask one more question before we get out of here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay,
no,
so
I gotta dip. I'll listen,
shit.
but I'm gonna dip.
All right, thank you, Objective.
Okay, I can't. It was gonna be too objective, but okay, forget it.
I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna ask Matt. Okay, go ahead, brother. What's your question? And then I do have to go. Go ahead.
Okay, you said that infinite regress was fine. I was thinking, okay, so how does that work with the Big Bang? Because if there's like I don't see how there could be what, an infinite amount of Big Bangs, or I don't know how infinite regress fits into a Big Bang model.
Yeah, the model, the cosmological model would be called the Big Bounce or the Big Bang Big Crunch, either one of those. If you look
Okay.
into that, that'll answer your question.
Yeah, I know what that is. I okay. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother.
Hey, thank
Have a
you.
good day, gentlemen.
Thank you, brother. And yeah, we'll connect soon. We'll definitely connect soon, man. Yeah, this was a good conversation, man. Objective, I appreciate it. Yeah, this and the mind, if you have anything, yeah,
Nope, I'm good.
yeah, it was it was great. Mr. X came on, Scribe, Objective, the mind. Yeah, everybody in the chat, man. Wow, it just hit 3 a.m. I didn't, man, time flies when you're having fun, I'll tell you that. It definitely is cool. Yeah, the whole stream of is it just another brick in the wall really was based on the Pink Floyd album of All in All, You're Just Another Brick in the Wall. And it really shows us about isolation, how we were saying, when he had the trauma from his father dying in the war, which was the character in the movie The Wall. We have the childhood trauma from school, the authority, which was another brick in the wall, and then the isolation that he had did to himself, the character Pink. So the first part, he focuses on the loss of the father in the war, creating his first foundational trauma brick. So when they say all in all, you're just another brick in the wall. The second, he addresses the cruel indoctrination of the school systems. And then the third, he shows the finished wall with the singer disengaged and declaring people just bricks in the wall. And it's a deep, deep concept. I mean, with the songs that it has in it, as far as Goodbye Blue Sky, we see that is happening, come to pass. Mother, do you think they'll drop the bomb? In the Flesh, Another Brick in the Wall, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Amazing. Hey You, Is There Anybody Out There? Comfortably Numb, one of my favorite songs.
A lot of good songs.
Oh yeah, I clearly have become comfortably numb. I understand that song totally now. I've tried to, I don't even know if I can prevent from being comfortably numb. That might be part of the way that I flow through society now, because I've seen so much and experienced so much and accepted it and said, I can only change those things I can. I got to accept the things that I can't change as things that I can't change at the moment, or things that I can't ever change. Some of that stuff, maybe going in that direction, could lead me to inventing new things. I'm not sure, maybe, but I'll keep thinking and going forward, trying to do that, preventing bricks in the wall from stopping me. The whole, as I put on the thumbnail, the bricks in the wall would be the stuff like devices that try to pull us in, like this picture where Frank Zappa said, look, you move the tables and stuff to the side. You'll see when you part the curtains, the brick wall behind the stage. This is, we think what we're living in is an illusion, like how I put on this one is the military behind everything. The home, the dream home is just a scenery. It's an illusion with the military behind the curtain. As soon as they move it, that's behind the curtain. And they build these neighborhoods on top of stuff like that. Of top of, Love Canal was built on a toxic site, and people started getting sick, and that's how they knew. So we are living like on. We're living.
Speaking of that, I'm actually living on a trash in my neighborhood. It's called the Hills, and it's because they're made out of giant trash mounds.
Holy smokes, man! So you look and you think about that. What are we really in? What are we really in? So the fact that you're living on what was built on a giant trash site, and when you pass Lefferts Boulevard in Brooklyn, you can smell the whole dumps. I mean, it's like for a whole exit on the Belt Parkway. It's just unbelievable. Love Canal, built on not only a trash site, but a toxic trash site that started leaking and seeping into the neighborhoods, causing, you know, like illnesses in people until they found out that it was built on that. And then instead of calling it a toxic site cleanup, they mess with the words. They call it a super fund site. So they use super funds, the taxpayers' funds. Remember, nothing is government sponsored. It's all taxpayer sponsored. White Heat said, yeah, let's strive for a higher minded era of friends. Exactly, man. Higher minded era is definitely, bro. That's the way to look at it, man. To say, you know, and you're right, man is limited to the capacity of his senses. Many things defy solutions. And that's where, again, the humbleness of saying there's things that I have to accept that I just don't understand at this point, and I might not ever understand them, and that's okay. That's part of existence. That's the beautiful part of existence.
Yeah, but the one thing we should not accept is dependence on a manipulative and a corrupt system. That's the thing we should definitely not. As much as possible, we should, like, at least when it comes to getting food and water, we should at least be producing that for ourselves.
Yes, ethics had a very good point with that. One part of it that I would say is definitely teaching people why it's not right to steal. There has to be some type of boundary there. But a big part of that comes before that, I would think, is that you have to provide for people. You have to say, okay, let's analyze this thing called theft. Why are people really stealing? What is the reason for them to actually steal? It's like the moral implication of lying. So even the lyings, I had stuff about that, and it was showing. There's a book actually called Lying, the Moral Implications, and that book by Cicely Bach, right? Lying, Moral Choice in Public and Private Life. That's the name of the book. Argues that lying is generally harmful and erodes trust, proposing that honesty should be the default, though she acknowledges rare and justifiable exceptions. Like if somebody, say a killer, is looking for someone, you're not going to tell them where that person is. You will lie. It's justified in that moment to save the person's life. But in society, the harm of lying is never neutral. It harms the social fabric by damaging trust. And this is why I'm so like solid on some of the sciences, to say, no, we must know this because it breaks down the fabric of it. Christopher says, my last employment was a factory built on a Victorian waste dump. Holy smokes. It's as if everything, the majority we have are built on waste dumps from previously before. And like the whole thing of the Tartaria, you wonder, it's like when they say that they didn't build San Francisco, they dug it out from underneath. Like there were bricks and buildings that were already there, but had got covered by a mud flood. I don't know if it's true, but the pictures say a lot. I mean,
Yeah, from the 1800s, that's really hard to believe all that stuff was just built right from the settling of America. That's really crazy.
Exactly. And then look at the wordplay again, settling. So not the invasion, not the brutal invasion. Let's just call it settling. So this is where I say that words are that powerful to get a person think that an atrocity was just a peaceful migration. And when we look at the reality, we say, no, that the only way that I could believe that is through the word. So the word.
Yeah, I used the wrong word.
Yeah, exactly. The settlers, if somebody were to go over to somewhere and settle it and people were there, that's not really settling. So again, this is how, when we spoke earlier, how to define something in the dictionary if it's wrong. If that word settling says, oh, well, it means that you're just settling something when nobody's there peacefully. And somebody says, well, they settled this. It's like, well, no, there's people, and those people are put on smaller reservations. So this wasn't settled.
That's where I wanted to kind of talk to objective ethics about, because it makes sense when you start saying like, okay, well, as long as we know what we mean, but when we're talking about intellectual whatever, like wordplay or just intellectual honesty, that is an idealistic thing to think that everyone's just going to be intellectually honest, because people don't use their intellect for honesty. Like you were just saying, the a big part of communication is deception, or I don't know if that's what you were
Yeah,
saying
yeah, no,
specifically,
yeah,
but
because he was saying it's still communication, which he's right. It's still communication, but a large part it can be used to manipulate,
yeah,
deceive.
what kind of communication, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's very important. Very important. Wow, Christopher said they're building a housing estate on the same Victorian waste dump. That's crazy, man. They play on words, is otherwise known as implied linguistics. Wow, thank you for that. So the implied linguistics is what we see being used totally. It's clearly and if we're aware of that, now we can defend ourselves against that. If we don't know somebody, we can already see people that don't know that implied linguistics is being employed on people. It's
It's a
being used.
subconscious thing that happens when you're
Yeah,
not aware of it.
yeah. So if they don't think, they'll just go along with it. It's very easy to go along with it because
Or they can like have an inkling of like, I don't know, I don't like agree or whatever. I don't feel right, but they don't
yeah, they'll
really
have
know.
a feeling. Yeah, they'll have a feeling. They'll say, "I don't think this word is right. It doesn't feel right. There's something a little wrong about that." Like
I
when
don't
we,
even know if they would be able to pinpoint it to the word.
yeah, well, yeah, some words like
But some people might not be that aware, is what I'm saying.
yeah, exactly. Like when people, Scribe and I have had this debate, X and all of that on here, where we talk about the rappers and the whole creation or bringing back of the N word, where people call themselves that word, which that's not good. So they can say, oh, it's changed. It doesn't have the R on the end.
It's bringing back power to us.
Yeah,
That's what
something
you're trying to
like
say.
that. We know the feeling of that. We know it's wrong. And a lot of elders, there's a lot of people that know this. They know that it's wrong, but they'll continue because of ignorance. Ignorance creeps in all the time and we'll forget. So
And
it's
alliances too, because ignorance and alliances, they kind of go hand in hand a lot of
yeah.
times.
Oh yeah, ignorant alliances. Exactly. The alliance of ignorance, basically. And that when I told somebody, I said, look, it's like a woman calling themselves a sleut or an H word or a B word. There's no way that can be called or they can call themselves that without it looking as if it were self disrespect. So it's a disrespect of the self, which can only come from not respecting oneself. So that's the important thing to see. And it takes a lot of analyzation to really look at that. Most people don't want to think, they'll just go along and they won't think that, hey, you know what? There's songs that are made to brainwash people to continually call themselves these self-degrading words. So that again should bring up a red flag to say, why would they do that? Like when they call the natives here Indian, I would say, well, when did they come here from India? Because only Indians, they come from India. So how are they Indian? You have Native Americans that call themselves Indian without knowing. Some know, and some just go along with it. Like we know.
Well, I've spoke to some, and they've said because it's a part of the whole treaty thing. When they were like doing the legal laws and stuff, legally they were called Indians, so they were like, okay, well, if we want our treaties to stand, then we're gonna
Yeah,
claim
yeah.
that word.
And it's really sad because it's a way of getting somebody to call themselves something
Yeah,
that's not even them. It's like the wordplay. It's at a very high level of manipulation and deception. The coercion is there saying that, hey, you're going to call yourself that or else under like threats. So
yeah, and if you look at like all the federally recognized nations, as far as I'm aware of, like when it comes to the programs or the federally recognized like something, I'm okay. I don't want to misspeak. I'm gonna have to look it up because I misspeak a lot.
no,
I, there's a thing basically I've seen where a lot of the things they do, the programs are called like the American Indians whatever, and yeah, I'm just like, okay.
yeah, they put it's just the way they try to put people in the cages of black and white and Hispanic and you Asian. It's like it's just another label of a cage. It's a prison, basically, a mental prison for people to call themselves a color, and it fuels racism. These words are very important to understand how they're manipulating us. The lying, because now we're lying to ourselves, and what does that do? That messes with the fabric of society, like the book lying. The moral choice in public and private life. So lying, it's very like when people lie about who they are, about what they are. The test of publicity is spoken about in the book. Proposing, testing a proposed lie, right? They running it by a sample of people to see if a reasonable public consensus would justify the lie. So there's certain lies, the power imbalance. Lying creates an information imbalance that's fundamentally coercive. We know this for a fact. It makes it especially unethical when used by those in power over individuals. So that's like the saying that was loosely translated from Voltaire that says, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. So if somebody can make you believe something that's totally absurd, they can make you commit an atrocity based on that belief in absurdity. And she goes into different types of deception, analyzes various justifications, including white lies. We look at even the word white lies. Why would it be called a white lie? Why would a less of a lie be called a white lie? And that's because we know of racism that was embedded into the culture of thinking, well, that's not as bad. Just that word implies a type of privilege to say,
what about white collar crime?
exactly. It's supposed to say that's crime is not a physically as bad. It's like, wait a minute, it's still crime. It's like, so why, by putting the word white, like we said in the dictionary, we know that not all things are good. A lie is a lie, whether it's white or not. A lie doesn't have color.
Now mentioning color, remember I told you I had to go do some research and I'll be back. I actually never came back, but I did do the research.
Mhm.
And what I was looking up was to see the Masons, when it comes to the Masons, how it works, because I know they have a black Mason lodge and they have a white Mason lodge. And I do know they like to do this black and white game in their rituals, like literally the whole checkerboard. All the rituals are done on checkerboard.
Yeah, the
So so I was like, okay, well, it makes sense that they have a white Mason lodge and a black Mason lodge, and they have literally the black race like as a hand in hand as a part of their thing. And I was like, okay, well, let me go do some research and see if there's any federally or nationally or whatever recognized Mexican lodges. And at first we're like, yeah, there's lodges in Mexico. And I was like, no, I'm not asking if they have lodges in Mexico. I'm asking, is the same way that they have a black lodge where it's exclusively black people and you can go to Europe and they're accepted as Masons in Europe, being from a black Mason lodge. Is there a Mexican Mason lodge? And they're just like, no. They do have lodges where there's a lot of Mexicans and they do like Mexican rituals, but they don't have like the way they have it established for a white thing group.
Or a white or black lodge.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense if they're going to be doing this extremes of black and white type of thing.
Oh, it's a divide and conquer. It's to keep people, it's to strip away individuality and put them in a color, which it reduces somebody. I mean, people to buy into that, the lie of that, also, it has a problem on the structure of society to say that that's the harm of lying. It's never neutral. It harms the social fabric. The social fabric is damaged. It damages trust, even when victims are unaware that they were deceived. So the fact that somebody doesn't know they were deceived still harms the fabric, the social fabric of society.
I can say too, from my own experience, from like a weird supernatural stuff, I feel like we are given gifts, and like this life is a gift.
Yeah.
I would say, and most of the stuff we get in life is a gift, and Even like the hardships, that's a part of a thing we need to learn from and stuff. And dang, I'm losing my train of thought. If you lie, your gifts can be taken, because literally I have said stuff where I'm like, oh, my phone's not working, and then my phone just breaks, and I'm just like, oh my god, I had to say that. I had to say the thing, and then it happens. Like
Wow.
your lie turns into a truth, especially if you.
You have to be very careful. Words have immense power.
Yeah.
And just that thought, you see how powerful it is. So you lied about something. It would be great if you can tell the truth about something and it happened, or like a want to say, I would like to have enough
Well, it
finance.
does. That does happen. Like
Enough
literally,
money.
I do think things, and I do want things, and it happens.
That's great. That they say that once we realize how powerful our mind is, at that point we will never speak or think a negative word again.
I try not to. I
Negative.
definitely try not to.
Same here. I mean, I wish I have enough money to be financially independent, successful, to where I
Yeah,
can.
but money's the trap, though. That's the thing. You got to realize that's money's the thing that they want.
Like one of my friends feels kind of like that, but I'm like, look, we want to eat, right? You know,
Yeah, but it's not the end goal, and I mean,
it's definitely not the end goal, but it's part of the goal to kind of reach the end. To say, if I had enough money, if I could, I mean, I would still stream, but it would be to where it's like now I can contemplate more things. I have enough time to organize stuff. It wouldn't be like always pushing it to say, all right,
if I had okay, so me, I would say if I had enough influence, because if I had enough influence, I wouldn't need money.
well, you'd still, how would you buy food? How would
I
you?
wouldn't need to buy food. People would give me food.
Okay, so you would be using your influence, like you said, basically.
Yeah,
So they would. I mean, that is
I literally okay. I would grow my own food. I would grow my own food. I have my own land because somebody gave it to me because I'm their
yeah,
friend.
yeah. That would be great. Like just like growing tomatoes is easy. Like there's certain foods to grow that's very easy.
You
And
don't need money. You just need to know the right people. You need to have the right influence.
yeah, the only reason I would say for the money is really to keep the government off your back, because even if you're living in a place, like they're always going to come for their 2 cents. And if you can only maintain a certain amount of stuff.
Okay, so influence, right? This goes back to my whole influence thing. And I have so much influence that the government is off my back because there's a whole movement. There's like,
Well,
yo,
usually, all right, let's look at
influence.
that example. Let's look at people that have had the influence like that. What has happened to them? When government sees that people get too much influence, we can go and see the repetitive pattern of them getting killed.
That's true. That's true. But the scenario I'm talking about is influence where it's like everybody is thinking the same thing,
Community. If you have an
and it just
intentional
happens.
community, and I've heard there's places like that. So now everybody grows food. Like you said, you would be using some skill to help the community, and other people will be giving you food. So now you don't got to grow food. You don't have to worry about water. They're piping it into you. And I know a girl that lives in a land trust upstate New York by Ithaca, and she has that. They have to tap into a spring actually. So they actually have to fill water. So now if that spring goes dry, you see, that's where you got to know if it's coming from the rocks. Now you don't know how much it has. Let's just say you have water for a few years, say 10 years, and then you say, wait a minute, the spring went dry, the well went dry, and this does happen. So now you have to figure out, now how are we going to get water? How do we do this? And this is why I say that technology, it's important to an extent. Like we don't come from the wild. We can live in the wild. We can survive in it with the hunter-gatherer default that's built within us. But we don't just come from there. It's like, how would we find another source of water? How do we know that the water from this spring doesn't go over rocks that contain arsenic, which has been found in America, that now the water looks clear, but it's poisonous. So
Well, there would be signs of life and stuff. I think people would be able to tell.
well, no, even if you have life in the water, that water can be dangerous now. It can be bacteria. It can be stuff that can affect us. So when you look
yeah, true.
yeah, I mean, nature, it more and more points to us being unnatural. Like we seem natural, we seem like we're very natural, but there's a very strong unnatural component where we're fragile. Animals can drink out of dirty rivers and all of that, and they're fine. We can't do that. We do that, we'll be dead in
True.
a few days. So
You
it
can't eat
tells,
raw meat.
yeah, we have to
We
be
can't
very careful with raw meat. If
we
you
can't like just eat plants like like straw
even
like a dang what is it called, a horse, like a horse, a cow. They can eat grass, they can eat straw, and look at how like strong they are. Like we need to eat all this other extra stuff.
yeah.
And
Yeah, we're very fragile. And that's what shows me that we are very much not natural to the environment. We can adapt to the environment, and the whole evolution lie will tell us that we come from it and saying, no, if we did, we are definitely different from animals. Like in that
what do you think about the whole splitting thing? Because I don't know what to make of the when it comes to like the lies, right, of of DNA and the evolution stuff. There's supposed to be like a split thing that we have that no other mammal has, a DNA strand.
I have to look into that. So there's a DNA, you're saying DNA humans have
Yeah, it's a split
that
DNA
animal
strand
that
that
animals
no other animal has on Earth.
don't have. DNA humans have that animals don't have. They say that, see, again, it goes back to the evolutionary lie, to where it's they are, and this was the thing about language that when ethics was on, I wanted to mention, and I couldn't find, I didn't want to look in the files. Human accelerated regions. So this is an unnatural region that it's accelerated. The HAR genes. Scientists identified areas of the genome that are stable in most animals, but changed rapidly in humans, known as HARs. These regions are often involved in brain development and function. So something seems to have pressed that button. Missing DNA segments we have. In a surprise twist, researchers found that 510 genetic segments found in chimpanzees and other animals are completely missing in humans. So now, when they try to say, well, we come from that, now it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
These
right.
nations, and it revolved, they particularly around genes that control neural development, as if something was taken out. And
In
that's
order to
weird.
get it smarter.
Well, that's the thing. How do you take something out and the organism becomes smarter? And they're believed to contribute to human unique traits such as larger brains, a lack of sensory whiskers, how cats have whiskers and other animals, mammals have whiskers that can sense, gene regulation, not just genes. So now there's differences. That they're in not in just the protein coding themselves, but it's in how they're turned up or down, the expression of those genes, acting like a volume control for brain development. So this is not random. This implies something constructed this. The chromosome structure. Humans have 46, whereas chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans have 48. So the human chromosome 2 is actually as a result of fusion of two separate.
Yeah, that it is. There it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was looking for.
exactly. So it's like it's a fuse, but then they try to say it's from separate ancestral ape chromosomes, which is totally unscientific.
Yeah, it
So
makes no sense.
exactly, the religion of evolution is trying to creep in at every stance, but we have to keep thinking and saying, wait a minute, that's not science. That's them adding it in. The fact is we have 46 chromosomes, whereas chimps, gorillas, and orangutans have 48. That's a fact. But to say that this is actually a result of the fusion of two separate ancestral ape chromosomes, that's not science.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
just
fact.
speculation. But
Yeah.
they are. I mean, they're. So that's what I was saying. Is there actually? Because I think there is actually a fused thing, and then they're just trying to say like it's because of whatever reason.
But evolution, it's to say this all goes back to them saying that these people are closer to apes than other people. It all goes back to that That is the whole basis of this, to say that this chart here is real, that everybody with a tan or darker is less advanced than the guy in the front. When you have charts like this in museums, I mean, this is like a brutal lie about saying, look, people.
Yeah. It's just like they should just put like every just have it so it's like every race, and then have it behind the white guy, right?
Look at what they do in the museum. Black people, they make them look basically non-human.
Yeah, and then the Native American,
Native American is here. Here's the Native American.
Yeah.
Looking like an animal at the water, looking like the black people over here.
And the Chinese, where's the Chinese at?
Modern man, now all of a sudden he has a structure to live in, he has firewood, he has clothing, and he happens to be looking like the guy at the front of this chart here.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, the other people, they make them look subhuman. So religion is evolution is a religion of blackface. It's a religion of racism, basically. It's another brick in the wall.
True.
And it's nothing against people. It's just like, look, this is something that they've duped people into believing. Asvarun, what's up, man?
Oh, hello, MD. Hello, the mind.
What's up?
Yeah, anything on your mind?
No, the reason why I'm not able to come oftenly is because I got discharged from the hospital. So the doctor said you have to join calisthenics too to reduce your visceral fat in the belly. And I reduced around 6 kgs. So now I have to reduce 5 more, and calisthenics is the only way. So I'm a bit busy, MD.
Oh,
so I thought,
congratulations.
Yeah,
and I hope you get better.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Get better. Congratulations, man. I'm so glad I'm just glad to have you come when you can, man. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Christopher says, are we the aliens? Honestly, I wonder about that. It's like Architects of Humanity. It looks as if that the genome is definitely looking created. I mean, the fact that when we look at like these differences in DNA, these genetic segments that are missing, that happen to be absent, the HAR, the human accelerated regions, with vocal, that has a lot to do with that too. It's like not only did brain size change from this, but also it magically created the vocal ability too, which is, there's no way to explain that. And they will try to bring it back and say, well, evolution did it. And it's like, well, that's not science. We want to go by science.
Well, they gotta do their little what is that thing called? Where the guy who goes into like a mummy cave and then digs up some, like, I don't know, a base or something. Indiana Jones. They got to do their Indiana Jones bit and go around the world. And
you notice that they don't let people tell their own histories. It's always somebody else going in there with the brushes and the picks and the shovels and saying, look, we'll tell you about ancient history, and you can't speculate and say why something could be different.
Yeah, we will tell you your history.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the thing that we're waking up from that. We're saying, no, you're not telling us the history because you've lied over and over again. And now we're searching for truth. But yeah, it's a little late here, man. It's like 3:30. I don't know if it's less.
I gotta go to bed too.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on, Asvarun. Thank you for coming on. Everybody in the chat, thank you. We'll do it again tonight. I'll try to stream tonight, Friday night, and Saturday, and we'll go forward with that. But thank you guys for being here, and we'll talk again soon. Have a good night.
Goodbye, MD. Goodbye, the mind.